YouTube.
Okay. Fish Hawk or Great Lakes?
Fish
Fish
Hawk.
Hawk.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo. We got fans here wanting to know when, what, and where we're going to be on. Of course, if you're watching, you know exactly what and where we're going to be on. We're a little bit late. Had some people stop by and chat with us at the booth. I'm Chris Larsen. We're along with Craig Sleeman today. Captain Craig Sleeman, how you doing?
Good. Nice to finally be back. You know,
Yeah.
it's been a long time since you guys have been up here, about a year now.
Yeah, it's been exactly a year.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, we're
back
back
for another year.
back here at the show. It's been a great show so far. We have a lot of really awesome guests, and today kind of the same thing. We're going to lead off with about an hour and 20 minutes of Lake Erie talk, and then we're going to get into some Lake Ontario, and we'll wrap up with a little bit of Lake Michigan. We've got Craig on right now. We're going to have Tom Miranda coming on in about 20 minutes, and then we'll have John Breedlove on to talk about Steelhead on Lake Erie. Then follow that up with Chuck Earls, who does kayak fishing on Lake Erie. Then we'll have Kevin Noon from 3L Flies. He talks a lot of Lake Ontario salmon fishing. We'll wrap it up with Captain Chris Ingalls out of Michigan. He fishes out of Manistee on Lake Michigan and does a ton of YouTube content. Tangled Tackle Fishing is the guy there. So a jam-packed show for you this afternoon and into the evening. Hope you guys enjoy it. And again, all weekend long, we'll have 2 shows tomorrow and 1 again on Sunday as well. Craig, just fill us in. We had you on the show a couple weeks ago from my office, but what have you been up to?
Yeah, you know, it's show season. So we've been back and forth, you know, residing over near Rochester. We had a little Rochester boat show last weekend, and just ready to put the pieces of the puzzle back together for 2025. You know, it's been a very short off season, if you will, you know, with that NWT run last year, making that championship, and, you know, having some fall tournaments, the fall brawl, and doing a little bit of little team tournament up in Chameau and Henderson Harbors, up with Lewis up there with the gang. So, you know, it's been a you know, a late fall into almost winter, and then all of a sudden, boom, I think winter hit. And I was watching you guys this morning with Matt Yablonsky and talking about the changing conditions of Lake Ontario and how that ice is affecting things. And, you know, he's been chipping ice in the launches. We've been doing a little bit of the same. You know, not had the big boats out yet, but, you know, been fishing the Finger Lakes here the last few weeks. We can get that, you know, 20 to 25 degrees. I've got some open water that we've been doing quite a bit of perch fishing.
Yeah.
So it's been good. It's been good.
How's the perch fishing going?
You know, right now the lakes are they're fishing better than they should be. Even with these cold temperatures, you know, the fish have been plentiful, which is, you know, unlikely for this time of year. Usually we start to see our perch school up in, you know, late February, early March, but we had some January bites that were really good before this real cold weather set in, and it's been good. And, you know, for the first time in a long time, I had some buddies actually take me out on some ice.
Yeah.
So I got some ice fishing in up on Oneida Lake a few weeks ago, and it was interesting. We caught a lot of big walleyes and had fun with some perch. But yeah, it's been a good, successful winter, and then looking forward to, you know, getting some of that ice thawed here in the next couple of months.
Are you catching some of those mega perch up there?
You know, we start to see those megas probably late March, early April. And then when they start to really pack on that egg cannon there, they, you know, I've even got them, you know, these last 2 seasons have been really good into May. You know, and that might change this year with this colder weather. It might be a little later. But usually when those guys are turkey hunting, we're out there plucking, you know, looking for a big one, looking for a trophy. But yeah, so far so good. Nothing over 16 yet, inches wise. But you know, those fish they're coming. They're just going to be a few weeks out.
Yeah, we have people in our area that they're looking for jumbo perch. And I'm like, you got to go fishing with Craig and get the mega perch.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's certain lakes have this breed of fish that I think just is a little different than the rest of the country. And, you know, with that deep water access and having open water year round, I think their growing season's just a little bit more than normal. And, you know, we're also seeing a good return on, you know, the actual food that they're feeding on is incubating. They're having a good season there. And, you know, there's some freshwater shrimp, there's some sculpins that have made it into the system. And, you know, I think having that, we'll call it year-round food source instead of this dormant cold season really does help some of those fish grow up to be some of those trophy fish. So yeah, we're excited for 2025. I mean, the perch season's going to be coming along, and we've got a lot of guys signed up to fish, and you know, hopefully we can get them out and get them on some trophies for sure.
Well, you've got Aqua Traction on your shirt, Aqua Traction on your hat. Your booth is right there. Your dad's manning the booth right now.
You got
tell me about what you got going on.
Yeah, so now for our third season here in Rochester, Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, actually, we've got kind of a little Northeast program we've been installing, XPE foam floors in boats for marine decking, and it's been very successful. I know Matt Yablonski's got it in his boat, and a couple other guys have been, talking about putting it in their boats. But yeah, we've had a great season so far. We've got boats in Key right now. We've got a couple to do next week, and it's going to be a great 2025. So yeah, if you need any information, definitely reach out, aquatraction.com, and we are now the Northeast upstate New York dealer.
Awesome.
Yep.
Tell me about what that process looks like. If I called you and said, hey, I want to put it in my boat,
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
happens next?
So we just look for a square footage. Everything is based on, how big that coverage area is going to look. So we would just need a measurement. We can throw together a quote, and then we go to the design. That's where I have my fun, is with my art background. I get to do a little fun work with your design and pattern and color. And, with that, we take it to our engineers at Aquatraction. They spit back a really nice, colorful proof. And that allows us to go through any notes or, decide if we want to change things up. And another 5 to 7 days, we've got a floor in the shop. So we come to our clients. We actually go to the boat and actually will visit them and do the work right on site at their marina or at their dry dock. We can do them on the water also once the weather starts to change a little bit. It gets super busy, but we can definitely fit them in. And as long as we have 65 degrees on the floor, we can adhere to, any of those surfaces that we've been looking for. We do a lot on vinyl. We do a lot on, smooth glass. We've got a ton of non-skid glass that we try to cover, and helps guys with just back problems and bending down to take a hook out of a fish, putting your knees on something more comfortable. So it's been working out really well. I've had it at my Ranger now for this will be our 4th season, and I love it. I keep it just like the day that I received it and got it installed, and keeping it clean is really easier than I expected. So that's been the number one thing I see the most, is not only comfortability, but just the way that I can keep it clean. It's been awesome.
What about prep right now? I got some carpet in my boat that's pretty slimy. If I wanted to put it in my boat, how would I go forward?
We would just, have you take that carpet out and just, reveal that material that's underneath, get you scanned out. We come with our, our plotter, and we'll plot it out and figure out what your dimensions are. And it's really not too bad. As long as you have a clean and dry boat when we get there, it's easy peasy. It's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 process. And, a lot of the guys are really starting to customize these things to their own. So if we have a Fishhawk logo that we want to, put in on a laser, or we've got some pocket logos that we're able to put in, we can really spice them up with some rulers and some different patterns and stuff. So definitely something to look into for sure.
Very cool. How about let's talk some fishing? What do you got going on this year on the water?
Yeah, 2025 for me looks to be another busy grinder of a season, working full time and having a full-time job and having some side businesses. Fishing does take a little bit of a side dish, but at the end of the day, it's my passion. It's where I want to land. I just signed up for another year on the NWT. Last year I ended up 4th in the championship out of Huron and was really proud of that finish, and put together a top 40 throughout the year, so it was consistent again. And I think this year we're really going to try to dive in and go full steam again. We've got an April tournament out in the Dakotas. We're going to head out there for our first one, and then we're back on the Mississippi in May, which is a place we fish, just not those specific pools of places we fish. We're in 7, 8, and 9 this year, over in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and then back to another familiar place where we had our championship up in Lake Huron. We're actually out of Alpena, just a little bit further north than Escoda, and then back to the home waters of Dunkirk. So we've got the 4th and final qualifier for this year was going to be right here in our backyard, which sometimes is the curse, as you know. But with kind of a rule twist this year, the year that Johnny Hoyer took it to us on the North Shore, they've actually put some boundaries in this year. And so we're going to be fishing New York State waters only. And also, too, another wrinkle is 12 fish, no call. So each co-angler and professional angler have to reel in their own 6. And then once you have 12 in your live well, you're done.
Okay.
So I think that's going to change, some approaches to a lot of guys, especially the guys that are traveling and haven't fished here as much, just trying to get a gauge on what the class of fish we have. But, by August, I think it's 7th and 8th this year, this school of fish that we receive from that Western Basin is pretty healthy. On average, it's a 5 and 6 pound fish with an occasional 7 and 8. And if you can get those 7 and 8s to bite, you're looking at a pretty good bag. So I think it's going to be one of those years where, if you can find a class of fish and stay on them and get the right bites at the right time and be selective on what you call, or turn back because you cannot call, right?
Yep.
It's going to be, you could see some weights, possibly back in those 40s again if you do it right, for sure.
Yeah. How excited are you for that? And that, yeah, you got to go out to Dakotas. Yeah, you're going to go fish on the Mississippi River, but you have 2 events on big water, and that's kind of your bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's going to be one of the keys to qualifying is, just surviving those first 2 and then really trying to hit home on those last 2. And, these big water situations, with the boats we now have, with the technology, with our graphs at high speed, if you can mark fish at 30, 35 miles an hour, that really shrinks that sandbox to play in, right? So, I think that's going to be a big key to it. And again, some of these fish are going to be super deep, and we know how to get to them in certain applications. So we've got the equipment. We know some of the areas, the key hideouts in some of these fish. So, hopefully we'll have some success, cash a few checks, and put the money back in the bank where it belongs.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys that you're competing against are guys who they are going to go out and maybe use their forward-facing sonar. They're going to try to drop shot these fish. They're going to go fish them in 30 feet of water, try to find those fish that they can pinpoint and pick off one fish at a time, where you're going to go out there with your trolling program, get over the top of them, try to find the better ones, but you're basically cruising over the top of these fish. Tell me about how that strategy plays out for you compared to the way that maybe those guys that specialize on a place like, Pool 7 would that's their bread and butter, and they come out and try to fish where you fish. How does that strategy play out for you?
I think with that 2 rod per person rule really does change that application of, can I get enough bites with 1 rod in the front, 1 rod in the back, for the specific fish that we're looking for, which is that, again, moving ahead of that 5 to 7 pound range, looking for those 8-pound fish. And I think, the one thing that with a trolling program, you're covering so much more water. I mean, when these fish start to spread out and chase bait, and, we've got a lot of temperature changes and a lot of thermocline changes and things that are chasing. If we can't get rods in the water and cover 1.5 miles, 2 miles in an hour, compared to maybe on a 7 or an 8 power, maybe going 1 mile, 1.5 miles, we're going to cover that much more water, than the competition, hopefully getting those hungry fish to bite. Because, as we know, not all fish are hungry, right? And so, if we can find the right schools that are feeding, the active schools that are up feeding and present a bait to them at a speed that they're looking for and get a presentation that they're, hungry for, I think we'll have some success there. I mean, that doesn't mean we won't look at jigging as an option because, we did have some success. But, it's funny, some lakes just fish, some areas just fish tight with a trolling pattern. If you have both, you're in much better shape than if you have just one.
Right.
So I think it will definitely be an advantage. There's going to be some local talent that's going to want to jump in for sure, and guys will do a little bit of potlucking and hopefully get in and cash. But it just comes back to consistency. You've got to get baits in the right place. You got to get in that strike zone. You got to be in the right speed. A lot of times, it could be something as a change of a blade size out here. It could be that color can sometimes play a role. People say, at the end of the day, does color really play a major role? And it can, especially when we got super clear water, which we do. We don't get the algae, we don't get the blooms, we don't get that mix of runoff. And fortunately for us, we've narrowed it down to some colors and some sizes and patterns. And, we'll start there and we'll see where the drawing board takes us,
Yeah. Right now, people think of Lake Erie like this is the good old days.
It is.
There's a bumper crop of fish out there for somebody who is, at least a competent angler. They can go out and get themselves a fish dinner. It can be done pretty easily. Go out and get your tacos. But when you're out there, especially when we're talking about a no-call tournament, you're looking for the upper level of fish. How do you target those so when you're out there, you're not banging 2-pounders, that you can go out there and try to find those 7, 8, 9-pound fish?
And if everybody knew the recipe to that, we'd be all, cashing big checks. And that's, that is something we have 100% struggled with here because of that influx of different year classes and, competing with those smaller fish, competing with those fish that are, in that 20 to 24 inch range. They're plentiful and they're usually the most aggressive. And so, but every once in a while, can you get a big one out of there? Sure. So that might be a numbers game that you have to put in your head, in your pre-fish or in your practice, where you can get out there and say, okay, it's going to take us 12 good bites to find one good one. So that means we've got to get quite a few bites, in a day to get a keeper. So we've got to use that practice, I think, time as a as a gauge to figuring that out. But there are some key areas. There's some times where, some of those little shallow rock piles or some of those little weed edges, or it could be an off the beaten path area that we can find a class of fish that is grouping together in that larger tournament size, right? So, I think we found that 2 years ago when we won the Innovative Outdoor Challenge over here in Dunkirk, where, fortunately for us, we had found a bite that was just in a little bit different location than everybody else. We'd found some fish that were just doing a little different, not catching as many, but enough to get this thing rolling. And we had 12 bites on our first pass.
Yeah.
And with a little bit of motor trouble, we were about 12 miles offshore, came in on a kicker, and luckily for us,
control your way home.
we just wanted to get home, eight footers. So there was very little trolling on it, but ended up winning that tournament on one pass.
Yeah.
And so the right magical pass can happen if you're around the right fish, right? So
what you're saying is it's more of a location thing than a technique thing. Is just finding those fish.
it could, in some cases it can be, but I'm a fan of just getting bites. Watching a board go back, watching a dipsy go off, watching a rod, watching a rigger, any of those things. That's the tug is the drug, that gets us out of bed in the morning before, I find myself setting my alarm earlier for fishing than I do for work, right? My snooze went off 3 times this morning before I actually had to get rolling. But for fishing, it's one of those, that I miss it, so, but yeah, I mean, it can be location, but, again, going back to the technique thing, I think spreading out on these bigger pieces of water can be an advantage. Getting that spread out, having 4 rods in compared to everybody else's. I get reports all the time. Geez, we caught 32 fish today. Geez, we caught 48. Well, you had 14 rods out. Of course you're going to catch that many, right? And so when we get into our tournament series, which is, like I mentioned, two per side or 2 per man, only having 4 in your spread, it also really does dictate, can you spread some things out and find that bite again day 2, day 3? And so that's something, without that larger amount of equipment in the water, you really do have to hone in sometimes on your technique. And I think it really does come down to speed a lot of times too, which we're going to talk about later on the show for sure.
Yeah. And I would say when you do that, it kind of limits your ability to experiment with things. I mean, you're going to be running your top stuff and that's it.
And that's the one thing that I see, especially when we're fishing Western Basin Fall Brawl. We got 3 rods a guy. We got 4 guys in the boat. Let's put one at 40. Let's put one at 60. Let's put one at 80. Oh, they're all biting at 60. Well, if we didn't have one, in that range and not having as many in our spread, it's going to be tough to hone in on 60 if that ends up being the number. So I think that's the game, again, that you're pre-fishing and the time that you put in prior to a tournament can really, dictate where at least you get started. Because as we know, every day is different.
Yeah. Tell me about that. So you're out there and maybe you pick a fish or 2 at 60. Maybe you got a couple lines at 40. You got another line running at 30. How fast are you moving those lines down to 60?
I'm usually pretty hesitant. It's tough to really go all in on a program, that really can just say, hey, I'm all in on all at 60 and I'm all at color and I'm all doing white and I'm all doing purple, whatever it is. And I think, I like to always have kind of that oddball. It seems like that one, it doesn't catch all the fish, but usually catches a big fish. And for me, it's usually a high line. If I can run a high line, and sometimes those bigger fish are up in that surface film chasing bait, they just don't want to be bothered by the schoolies. For me to just to have something away. But, those other 3, I'll dictate, through that process of working through it. And, for sure, I'll 100% use those 4 as much as possible. And I've always got that one lone ranger out there, always trying to, pluck that big trophy fish or try to get that 8-pounder plus. And usually it works out by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, our first guest is ready to go here. He's walking by a few times. I'm like, we got to bring him in. Come on in, Tom.
Throw this stuff down, guys.
Yeah.
What's happening, Tommy Miranda?
We're going to put this on your shirt.
Gonna mic me up?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to listen to me.
Well,
I
you
think
never
everybody
know.
wants to listen.
You never know. You never know. What's happening, brother?
Loving the shows. It's time. Lake's a little frozen. It's gonna be late, but you know what? Time to just get the boats ready, gear ready, poles, rods, reels, and get moving. Try and talk through stuff.
Good. Well, for the folks at home, this is Tom Miranda from Pole Dancer Fishing.
Liking it.
Yep. He's one of the big competitors out here on the Western Basin. Also, recently, last couple of years, got your captain's license.
Captain's license now. Doing my charters.
Doing some charters.
Perch, walleye, salmon up in Ontario in the spring.
Yeah.
It's going well. It's been great. Enjoying it. Meeting new people. I love taking people out that have never really seen it, never been on the Great Lake. You know, they think they've going out there and just show them some stuff and make some smiles, create some memories.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You've been doing some seminars today
Couple
and
seminars.
yesterday?
Did Perch yesterday, Perch today. Yeah, went well. Just showing what we do a little bit different than other people. You know,
Yeah.
tricks of the trade. And you know, last year I was out on that lake in March, early March, April. It's going to be late this year, but
Hmm.
I'm itching. So
Tell me about that. You sit in these seminars, you're talking perch. What goes into one of those perch seminars?
we'll go through the whole thing. We'll start with like, you know, a couple days before you're going out fishing. You're going to go look at the weather. You're going to look at apps. You're going to call friends. You're going to call bait shops. Look at, we're here to show. I share all the information with everybody. I give out my number to them. Say, call me. Do this. Do that. That's the first process. Doing that. Second thing, finding your bait. Bait's getting harder and harder to find.
Sure is.
You know, emeralds are, you know, pretty abundant. Some hopefully in the spring. Fall they're tough, but I've been having no problem with my fatheads. I've been very, very surprised how they've been great and they last. They're not as just delicate as the emerald.
Mm-hmm.
And breaking it down, we use something a little different on our lines. We use a sabiki rig, a saltwater rig
Okay.
that a friend turned me on to about 8 years ago. Mainly used down, you know, in off Florida, the Keys to catch your bait. We use them in that. It's got that little fly on it, and boy, it's changed what we do and how we do it. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, price point $1.90 for there's 6 points off them. I cut them. I make 2 or 3 out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So something just a little different. Bait, boy, they've been anywhere this year. They were deep early. Anywhere from 55. I was out to 72 feet
Yeah.
catching perch.
Well,
You
and
know,
are they suspended? Are they on the bottom?
they're on the bottom. They're on the bottom. You know, a little bit off. I found a couple schools, maybe a foot or two off.
Mhm.
But for the most part, you know, I'm driving around. I'm impatient. Probably just
Yeah.
like this guy.
Maybe.
I'm not waiting. I'm zipping around 20, 30 miles an hour. Once I find a little blip, go back in my waypoint. I'll go back over that, slow down and look at it. It was bait. Move on.
Mhm.
I'll go an hour and 45 minutes before I put a rod in the water. I have no
Okay.
problem. My clients get a little antsy.
Yeah, they
I'm
want
like,
to fish.
I'm like, do you want to catch perch, or we could just sit here all day with nothing under us? We could do that if you want. Maybe catch a perch, but no, I'm hunting them. You know, it's
Mhm.
not the old days of perch fishing, and we'll catch sometimes small pods of fish and catch 4, 5, 6 out of it.
Mhm.
They're off the screen. I'm going to look for them and move again. You know, I'm hunting them. It's different. It is literally, and once in a while you can get that school and you can see what direction they're moving. Just move up 20, 30 feet, stay on them. Or also they're gone. You scroll around and try again.
So are you hitting them with forward-facing sonar then? Is that what
I
you're
do
doing?
not have forward-facing sonar on my boat yet. No, I am
So you're just moving
throwing my
around.
Lowrance. I'm moving around, doing circles.
Mhm.
You know, I'm fine. You know, I try not to go near the packs.
Mhm.
You know, I try to find my own school of fish. If I have to, I'll get near them, but I'll creep in on them. I'm not going to bother everybody.
Yeah.
You know, turn off your main motor if you guys are coming in. Don't blow out the pot.
Yeah.
You know, we all see it happen. Just come in, jump in with your front motor.
Mhm.
You know, be quiet with it and have some fun with it. It's all
Yeah.
about just having fun.
What's the size structure of the perch you guys are going after?
This spring they were big. In March, I was catching between 11 and a half to just under 15 was a good average for a while. Later in the spring, they got a little smaller where we were finding trouble finding some of the bigger schools.
Mhm.
Fall was good, not as good as my spring, but a lot of wind this fall.
Yeah.
A lot of wind. But you know, I'm very lucky where I live, right down on the lake, and I look out at the lake. Lake's flat. I got 2 hours. I'm going out by myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does the day look like as far as numbers? How do you guys do out there?
We've done good this year. Like I went out on Easter by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and once I got on him, I called my buddy up and go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm free." I went picked him up at the dock. We came out. We caught our 100.
Yeah.
Nice fish. Cleaned them up. I went out there in the eclipse, the beginning of the eclipse before it peaked. I only had a couple in the boat. Went out after. Went right back. Started searching again, and there they were. Don't know where they were before. It wasn't
Yeah.
far from where I was. Out there by myself. There was one other boat. Some guys from Illinois. I waved them in, said, "Come on in,
Yeah.
get closer," and they were happy because they were out since 6 in the morning,
Oh my gosh.
and they only had 8 or 9 fish.
Wow.
When they came to the dock with me later, they were like, "Thank you, thank you." I'm like, "Take my card, call me up. You guys came a long ways to
Yeah.
come play in our backyard."
Yeah.
So
What is the limit where you guys are at, Chris? Is
Boy,
it 50 per person?
it's getting tighter and tighter. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of the lakes that we fish are 10.
Really?
So
Once I've heard it drop.
we got 10 fish lakes, we got 25 fish lakes, but really the lakes that have good size fish on it now are getting to be 10.
Okay.
But you go out and fish on the river, you're looking at 25.
25.
Yeah.
I think, Tom can attest to this is, our resource here in Lake Erie is a lot different on our end compared to that western end. And we know that there is a difference in limits.
PA, I think, is 25.
Is starting to change a little bit. Yep. And I think, 50 per person per day.
It's a lot of fish.
That's a lot of
Are moving
fish.
a lot of fish out of there, especially in the spring. The females are all just loaded with eggs. I take them out there in my arm, and I'm just looking at my hands going, the waste. But I don't know. Our resources here say keep taking them. They're there.
Which is funny because I know that we do have in Barcelona a fish harvesting company. We've got nets that are down that we try to avoid at all costs, right?
All costs to sneak up on you.
There's a story for you. But anyway, going back to that, we do have a small limited amount of professional and we'll call it commercial grade harvesting of these perch and walleyes. And I know it's a lot more popular on the Canadian side, and we're sharing this resource. So I know that those DNRs and the ministries and our DEC, they do talk and do go back and forth with each other about how things are going. And there's some studies out there that I would be interested to see what these numbers are. I mean, we talk walleyes all the time, but these perch are really sought after. Guys want to come and catch these golden fillets of yellow perch. As we all know, they're sweeter tasting, and a lot of times they're easy to pull out of the freeze and fry up. But what do you think on average would be your typical client day? Are you always getting limits, or there's some days?
We're not always getting.
Okay.
No. I mean, if I'm getting each one of my clients 30, they're happy, I'm happy.
That's 60 fillets per person. That's a lot. Yeah.
So they're good. They're happy, and a lot of times, I'm just bringing them out there. They're doing their thing, using. I've had a couple want to bring their own rods. That's fine. Do what you want. Most of them use my stuff, and I'm just there picking up the minnows, doing this, putting them away. They just don't have the boat, the resource to get out on the water to do that, or the time to take the time to keep finding them and be on them day after day. When we're out there day after day, you have a great starting point. Sometimes you can put them to bed and come back in the morning, they're there. Other times they're not far, or then you're like, okay, it blew for 3 or 4 days. Let's start from scratch.
Yeah. Right.
But even with the 50, I'd be happy with them going down to 30
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
50 is a lot. 50 is a lot to,
lot to clean.
I was going to say, sometimes cleaning longer than catching.
Yeah. Better have a good mate.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But no, where I live, I got videos of, I'm right on the launch going to the town of Hanover boat launch, right on the main drag. And I got videos of them lined up on a Saturday when I hear them all talking and I didn't want to go or don't have a charter. And they're lined up for an hour and a half, and the parking lot's jam packed. And, people love their perch.
Yeah.
It's been a long winter. They want to get out chasing them.
Yeah.
And this year, I can't imagine when it's time. They're
It's
going to
time.
be
Yeah. A little cabin fever going on.
They'll be going.
Yeah.
Sure.
I work with some of the charter guys down in Chicago, and I'll talk to my buddies like, yeah, we're going to go salmon fishing down there. And they'll be like, well, let me know when they're catching perch down there.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
They do. They love it, love their perch. And I didn't realize how many people love perch until I started getting into doing the charter business and talking to people. And they're like, oh, perch? Wait. Because you walleye go, oh, you do perch charters? Give me your card. Give me a call. And they call.
Yeah.
They're booking. I did quite a few charters last year. I'm changing things up, doing more of them.
Yeah. Do you guys do vertical jig for these guys then?
Pretty much vertical jig I'm doing. Once in a while I'll pop out to the side, but I'm pretty much doing right down at the bottom, vertical jigging, right on top of them. And like I said, once that screen goes blank, I don't give it long.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
We gotta make another rip somewhere else.
Shake and bake.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little walleye fish. That's something else you do. Tell me about kind of where you fish when you're chasing walleyes.
Well, it depends. Early in the year, we're structured here in Buffalo. I go to Buffalo. I'll launch out of Buffalo. I like that shallower water. Buffalo seems to hold more fish early in the spring. I think we're getting those bigger fish coming out of the river, coming to feed. A lot of the guys are realizing, especially some of the derbies we do, they're doing a lot of that nighttime fishing for some of these bigger fish at night. And but we have some structure there, a lot more structure, it seems, down in Buffalo. Little slag piles from these steel plants. and those fish are, staying right around them, feeding on those gobies more. Sure you've seen it. The walleye we catch in the spring, they're spitting up gobies. That's what they're after.
We do have a larger population of local fish staying now, because we have these shell beds too from our zebra mussels. And so we've got spawning ground in places we never had it before. So I think things are changing on our end. We're getting some warmer water from some creeks, 18 Mile and the Cat, they do feed some of those spawning grounds. So we are seeing a little bit more of a return, but our DEC also says that our majority of our fish are coming from the west. So, early season, Tom, you guys are up in Buffalo. We're usually in Buffalo, or we're down waiting for them to cross the
We're
PA line.
right at the border there. Jump out of Barcelona, head west, get near the line, and are they there or are they not? We all know enough people to make some calls and hear they're moving. They're coming. But no, that's a start in Buffalo. And then again, once they're out front of Cattaraugus Creek, it's my hometown. That's where I go.
Yeah.
And I try not to trail their boat too far if I don't have to.
Yeah. You're down there fishing, you're trolling down there?
Absolutely.
Cattaraugus,
Cattaraugus. Yeah. We're, that time of year is usually we're getting into July, August, September, and, bottom bouncing right out front too. I'm more and more into that, learning it. And, someone's teaching me more and more.
Trying.
Tough. We all talk, we all help each other out.
Yeah.
See what works out. But, different clients, they can't reel in those long leg core wire lines, the younger kids, the older, gentlemen, women. And we just get them on those fish, bottom bouncing, and they're happy. They just want to feel that tug. A little easier for them. I'm out, in 45 feet of water, so I have 60 feet of line out. Just bottom bouncing, just 4 lines, 4 rods, nice and easy.
Yeah. I think the one thing too about this end and some of the charter captains, since we don't have as many fish catching opportunities throughout the year, we end up learning a lot more from our captains because they have to work a little harder, right? And so with that being said, to jump on Tom's boat and go with him and 12 to 15 fish day early season is probably a really good day for a lot of guys.
Yep.
And so, not getting a 36, 48 fish limit, like they do in the Western Basin, it's kind of a nice change of pace. It's more of an educational trip with Tom. It's, hey, we're going to put these bottom bouncers out because we're marking fish on the bottom. Hey, we're going to start to raise some things up because we're seeing fish up higher. Like, how would you gauge a day if, here comes this family of 4 to the dock and they say, hey, Tom, listen, we want to catch a few fish. We understand that this is about catching walleyes, but you ever gone like, hey, I know where there's a bunch of sheephead just to get some bites?
It depends on the day. If
Sure.
I feel I can't get them that quick limit or a limit even of walleye, I just want something for them to reel in, take some pictures with, to put back, to create some memories. I'll play in those shallows.
Sure.
Those sheephead. You know what? They're not easy to on small tackle. They pull, they tug. Then all of a sudden you see your line going up towards. Oh, look, there's a nice bass.
Yep. Exactly. We do have kind of a mixed bag down here, and the steelhead fishing's getting better.
The steelhead's more and more this year. It's the most steelhead I've caught this year.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yeah, we're going to be talking steelhead here in just a little while. We got a guy coming on to talk some steelhead with us.
Good deal.
But I mean, the other thing, we went out of Dunkirk. I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just the walleyes weren't cooperating, and Captain just, let's go out a little bit further, and we picked up some Lakers, and I think a couple of steelhead, and same thing. Just let's go catch some fish.
Yeah.
Can't catch any walleyes today. Let's go catch some fish.
Especially if you get a blow for 2 or 3 days, a northeast. We went out there before the walleye were there. You go out there, the screen's blank, then you just have a blank look on your face. What am I going to do?
What are you going to do?
And then you go, all right, you kind of hopefully find some Lakers.
Yep.
The water flipped. Cold water moves in. And it changes your plans real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. And the Lakers, you get a couple Lakers. You're not going to get your 15, 20 Lakers, but boy, you get 2 or 3 each.
Yeah.
They're some
there's
surprise.
There's some big fish out there too. There's some dandies.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Fun to catch. Now you guys do a little fishing together. Tell me a little bit about kind of your relationship and how you guys hang out and do your thing together.
No, I'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, I know we met Tom just through fishing local tournaments, and his team pole dancer, just funny name. So obviously you get together and raise a glass every once in a while after a tournament.
It happens.
Having some mutual friends in the area, they kind of live together. Live in the same area now. And with Tom though, what I've always kind of been very jealous of is their note taking on their team. They're a very, very technologically advanced group that sits in and has a gentleman with a laptop and keeps track of a ton of data.
Yeah.
And so, you know, learning from a guy like Tom and his team, you know, they went out and won a tournament just based on old memories of data that they had collected over the years and said, hey, we got nothing else going. Let's look at our maps. Let's go to what we know, you know, and it was just an unbelievable story where they just went back to just old memories and figured out, hey, this time of year, at this temperature, at this depth, this is how we caught them. And there they were, you know, so that attests to a lot of their success here. They've, you know, last year you guys cashed quite a few
We
checks.
did. In fact, every derby or tournament we were in, we cashed a check last year. Something I'm very
outstanding.
proud of, right? It may not have been a big check. It may not even covered my expenses for the week, but we cashed a check. So that means we're in the top percent. And going against, you know, a lot of these teams around here, there is some phenomenal teams, you know, and if I could do that consistently, me and my team, we're doing something right.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
now, you know, now that you're getting back into the fishing education and teaching about perch fishing, and, you know, guys know this group of you know, of teammates that Tom is with, and, you know, everybody's always looking to see how they can better their program. And we always have looked at Tom and said, hey, you know, what can you do differently? And it definitely helped me back in 22 and, you know, got us into that top 10 on day 3. We figured a little something out together in practice and a little practice afternoon that we went out, and Tom said, hey man, I've got a couple of these things rigged up. Take what's mine, and mine's yours, and yours is mine. So it worked out really good. And I think that's the cool thing about this Eastern Basin group is, you know, there's a number of us that like to share, you know, and it's tough to find that everywhere. And we're just promoting that. If people see us leading by example, you know, maybe that spreads a little bit further. And the next time someone thinks twice about holding some information, not that we're going to take advantage of that information, but hey guys, listen, here's where they are. Go have some fun.
Yeah, and
you know,
we both know it. Everybody knows it. We could tell you where we are, what we're doing, and they could come next to you and try to mix. Sometimes they just can't do it in their boat.
exactly.
And whether it be because it's a big boat or their boat just fishes a little different. They're like, we're watching you. We're right next to you. We're watching you net fish after fish. You tell me you're using harnesses. You're telling me this. You're telling me your depth. You're telling me your speed. But maybe we're doing something a little different. I can't even pinpoint it to tell them to put fish in a boat, or it could be the other way. I'm watching the person next to me. I'm like, what are they doing?
Absolutely.
But like you said, sharing. I mean, when I came down to fish with Craig and the pre-fish for your championship, I came down actually to look at the house I bought, and I was calling. You know, I was over at our friend Jeffy's house, and it's kitty corner almost to where I am, and I'm like calling my realtor. I'm like, hey, I need to look at this house. It's not going to last. So it brought me right down in that whole community and everybody down there.
Very cool. Tom, if people want to find out more about you or maybe go perch fishing with you, how do they get a hold of
perch,
you?
walleye, salmon even, get hold of me. I'm on Facebook. You get hold of me, phone number 716-531-6683. Shoot me a text, call me. I'm on, like I said, I'm not a big Instagram or none of that, but I do, what is it?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yep.
I'm on that, Pole Dancer Sport Fishing. You know, right on there, follow us, shoot me a message through their messenger. But yeah, love that. And even if you got people coming in from out of town, get a hold of me. I'll let you know what's going on. I'll say, don't bother. The lake flip, wait 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, I hate to see people come in out of town, spend their money and resources in a hotel and just food and just look at the lake.
Yeah. And I know you always put out a really good report on the lake too. So Pole Dancer Sport Fishing on Facebook's been great.
Yep.
You know, it saves me an hour and 45 minutes, and I can always get the hotline down to Tommy. How are the waves looking?
Yeah.
Oh, they're crashing over the pier. Go back to bed.
Yep.
So it's been very helpful, but really appreciate you being around in the group. And man, I'm telling you what, it's just nice to have good, reliable people in this industry that we can always call and rely on. And Tom's one of those guys. And thanks for being here today, man. Appreciate you. Yep, for sure.
Like I said, this is what I'm looking for right now. You know, we got some time to kill, so we've got a couple more shows coming up.
Yep, you got it.
Very good.
Great.
Tom, appreciate you
thanks,
stopping
guys.
by, man.
Thanks, brother. Always
Being
nice
on the
seeing you.
show.
Yep. Anytime, and we'll see you soon.
All right, Tom Miranda, everybody. Got another guest. He's hanging out just across the way from us. We'll bring him in here. We're going to be talking a little Lake Erie Steelhead with John Breedlove. John.
He's probably ready to talk steelhead.
We're ready for you.
We're ready for you if you're ready for us.
It's hard in here.
Well, it's cold out there. We are in upstate New York and, you know, north of Buffalo in the middle of winter. So
as I went along the river to get here, I noticed that it was all frozen. There's a lot of ice fishermen.
Yeah.
91% coverage this morning. I looked it up.
Awesome.
91% of our lake is now covered.
Yes. And next week it's supposed to be back to teens and single digits.
Let's have you
Here we
sit.
go.
Have you sit right here. Talk little fish. I'm going to put this microphone on your shirt here for you. All right. John, tell us about yourself.
Steelhead fish. I love the steelhead fish. Been doing it probably since late teens. The first time I ever trolled for any, be it salmon or steelhead, was on the Grand River in
Okay.
Ohio. The very first year I went was the last year of the return of the salmon before Ohio quit doing it.
Okay.
It just didn't work. In fact, I talked to Mark Romanek, and he asked me what I thought the reasoning why it didn't work. And I said, because, just like there's steelhead, but up there you guys have Cisco's and alewives. All we have is shad and emerald shiners. And even the ODNR says that the emerald shiners and the shad don't have the protein in them like the Cisco's and the alewives do to produce the big fish. Up in Michigan, they get big. The manatees get pretty big. The Skamanians get pretty big. Down here, we don't get a lot over 10 pounds, but we do get some. But it also seems like the size of the fish fluctuates with the amount of bait fish.
Okay.
I'm friends with the ODNR, so I've been to a couple of the steelhead summits, and like one of the steelhead summits I went to, there was a guy complaining about the size of the fish, and I raised my hand, and the Curtis, our local whatever, pointed at me, and I said, the thing is, I said, for years when I've been trolling for steelhead, one of the first things I'm looking for when they first come in is I'm trolling the breakwalls, I'm looking for the emerald shiner, I'm looking for the schools of bait fish, because I know wherever they're at, the steelhead are going to be at. And I said, there for a couple of years, I said, them balls of bait fish were small, or next to none at all. I said, but this last year, and I said, this year, I said, there's been huge schools. I said, it seems like the population's really coming back. And I said, so you should see the fish size go back up again. And it did. Just like anything, if you don't have anything to eat, you're not going to get any bigger. But like I said, the Cisco's and alewives will grow bigger fish. Like that's why the salmon programs work good in Lake Ontario and work good in Michigan and Huron, but it doesn't work good in Lake Erie because the Cisco alewife population is very small.
How did you get into this, John? You told me that you started in the teens, and
Yes.
and you're
Which is
not
like
like
2 or 3
20
years
years
ago?
old. I mean, that was like six years ago. So how did you get into this?
I've always fished my entire life as a kid, was growing up. And one of the things is, up here, since you have Lake Ontario, you're pretty close, Bill Saif Outdoors. Channel 45, 49, which was a public station back in Ohio where I'm from. Bill Saif had a show on every week, and me and my brother would watch that, and we grew up catching bluegills, and you catch, crappies and stuff like that. And we would see Bill catch, these big salmon and stuff.
Salmon,
We
yeah.
just thought, that was something. We want to do that one day, So when we were able to borrow a boat from a friend, that's when we started fishing for the salmon the last year of the return. And then Ohio went to their own strain of steelhead, which was the I can't remember, the London strain.
Okay.
But they weren't stocking them in the numbers that they are stocking them now. And then the London strain was a fall run fish, which he would show up at the end of August, Labor Day, and then they would be a fall spawner and they would be done. So actually it has worked out great that they've got away from that, and now they use the manistee. They use I don't know what the strain is out of Wisconsin. They use them. They'll use the Shasta strain and even the PA strain. They'll get some eggs off of Pennsylvania. So you'll stagger and overlap the returns. So you actually get they come in at this year they came in at Labor Day, and they probably won't go out till Mother's Day. So it's actually made out better because you get an extended season out of it.
You're on Lake Erie. Everybody else in the world, when they go to Lake Erie, they're fishing for walleyes. And you're like, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to chase steelhead. What is it about steelhead that gets you excited?
I mean, I walleye fished for years. My favorite thing is to go wading for them. But one of the worst things that messed up the wading part for the local lakes for me is the zebra mussel. They cleared up the water. The weeds started growing. They never grew past 3 or 4 feet before the zebra mussel. Once the zebra mussel came, it cleared the water out. The weeds grow out to 9, 10 feet now. and it kind of ruined waiting for them in the spring. On a sunny day, if I can see my feet, there ain't no walleye kind of come within casting distance. You know,
Yeah.
they're going to come in the low light periods. That's what, you know, that's they don't like the bright light. So kind of got away from the walleye because of whatever and got the bass, but the steelhead have always been there. It's always been my passion. Nothing fights like it. You know, it's a blast to catch them. They come out of the water, they jump, the fight. You know, I like walleyes, but if you ever go on a charter boat, what do? They want you to get it to the top, and they want you to reel real fast, and they want you to surf it in.
Yeah.
What fun is that? You know, and some guys will, you know, even some of the guys I know will troll for them, and they'll try to bring them in still moving, but I don't. If I bring one of you with me or whatever, I'm going to tell you, here, I'm going to hand you the rod. If you have to loosen the drag up, you once, let them do whatever you want. Give me a minute. Get these other rods in, put the boat in neutral, put it on spot lock, and now you get to have fun fighting the fish.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and that's the fun part, is fighting the fish.
Mhm.
You know, I had a friend that told me that smallmouth fishing was great. He says, but I want to try a steelhead. So I took him steelhead, and the very first fish we caught, he's like, John, it's not fighting. Just wait a minute.
Yeah.
I said,
Give it a
it ain't
minute.
seen the boat, and it ain't seen the net yet. Wait till it sees the boat or the net. I said, you're going to be bowing to him before you're done. Next thing you know, I stick that net out of there, and that thing took off, and he was bowing to it. He's like, holy mackerel. I said, exactly. I said, you know, I said, a lot of times they'll do that. They kind of come in until all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait a minute. I'm not going near that boat, and I'm not going in that net,
Right.
you know.
Tell me about the boat. What are you running for a boat?
My boat's a 1990 C-Nymph. It's a BT 175. It's a back troller.
Mhm.
I have a 40-horse Mercury on the back with the troll control handle on it. The best money I ever spent was that troll control handle. I can idle that motor down to 800 RPMs, lock the steering in straight, finish my speed out with the tear over on the front, and I can sit. I use Akuma line counters. I'll loosen them drags up, put the clickers on. I can play on my phone. I can eat snacks. I can do whatever. I just wait for the clicker to go.
Drag to wake you up.
Craig, it sounds like
Exactly.
you and John might become buddies. I keep looking over and you got a big smile on your face.
You know, it's funny. You know, steelhead to us as walleye fishermen has always been the nuisance.
Mm-hmm.
However, we did target them back in the day. I used to salmon fish and steelhead fish quite a bit, but there is nothing better than having a steelhead hit a line. I mean, you know it's a steelhead. It's like a firecracker.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the excitement. I understand it. But how many of these do you catch in a day? I mean, can you catch 10, 12 a day? I mean, what's a typical day?
My best day ever by myself was 50.
Oh, by yourself.
By myself was 50 in one day.
Jeez.
I've had many mid-30s by myself. In fact, just before the big snow in November, I went 4 out of the last 5 days, but just before the big snow came, to 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. Each day, 30-some fish seen in
Wow.
each day.
But you're not fishing deep. This is shallow.
Yes, I'm fishing shallow.
Okay. So you're not far offshore.
This year was probably the first year in 10 years I've been more than 100 yards from the lighthouse.
Wow. That's cool.
I'm never more than 100 yards from the lighthouse. Never. I'm either on the inside of the walls, the outside of the walls, or in around, you know, inside the harbor. Or if you've ever been to Conneaut, there's a slip, and then the mouth of the river is in the slip. But I take what it gives me, because
Sure.
you know, the winds, you never know. And there's times where it could be even a windy day, but you got to know where you're fishing at and how it faces. Because, like, say I'm going to get a hard southwest wind, I know at Conneaut I can go still fish the outside of the east wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or I'm going to get a brisk south wind, I still know I can get on the outside of both walls, because the west wall is on an angle, like it goes in like a northeast direction. So I can still fish the outside of them. So knowing how the walls face and knowing which way the wind comes, then I can, you know, dictate where I can go and what I can fish, what I can't fish.
So what are you using to target these fish?
I would say the number one lure I use is Acme Little Cleos. That's probably the number one lure I use most of the time. I do use the KO wobblers. I do use shad wraps, jointed shad wraps, flicker shads. I'll tell you what, the jointed flicker shad, very good lure. The jointed flicker shads are a very good lure. I run some other Rapala lures. Mag lips, I will run mag lips. Maglips are usually my go-to when that temperature is down below 40.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I'm trying to do 1.5, 1.7, then, you know, I'm really running jointed, whatever, something with a lot of action and a slow speed.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't run a spoon at 1.5, it's going to just fall down on you. You know what I'm saying? You're just not going
Sure.
fast enough. So that's another thing. And then another thing, the last 2-3 years, wetter spoons on snap weights. I've been doing that. And one of the things that works the best for me is 30-30 on a 3-ounce weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told people, and people got back to me and said, yes, John, that works very good.
Those are out on boards.
Uh, I, I can run boards, but I don't run the boards all the time because
Okay.
it all depends. If I'm doing good with, I'm going to tell. One of the reasons I don't like to run boards, especially when I'm fishing the outside of the walls and they're tight to the walls, is because it pushes me off the wall too far.
Gotcha.
I'd rather run tighter to the wall and then have all my lines right with the boat,
in control. Yeah.
and I could stay tighter to the wall. If I run one planer board and run out, it's pushing me off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the steelhead will use the wall as an ambush point. They'll push the bait fish towards the wall, and then the bait fish have nowhere to go. So I like to troll very tight to the wall.
So you're also probably seeing a lot of current there as well, correct? I mean, that's what positioning that bait, or doesn't really. I mean, does a wind direction
You know, on the outside,
put them on one side of the wall or the other? Or?
on the outside of the walls, the current isn't really doing so much of anything. It's just the bait fish are following up and down the wall. Now, when the river does have, we do get rain and the river is pushing current out, yes, it can dictate, you know, because at Conneaut, it comes out, it hits the east wall first, and then it bounces off, and then it, you know, goes over to the west wall. So them points are very good over there. The current will work, you know, there. But on the outside of the wall, it isn't so much as it is trying to find any irregularity in the wall. The ends of the wall is great. On the west wall at Conneaut, down about 150 feet, the wall sunk, and when it sunk, it slid out. So it made a point that's down about 10 feet. So I always catch fish when I go by that. Go down the wall a little bit farther, there's a bend in the wall. Right there is a very good spot. So anything irregular in the wall is a very good place. You know,
What time of year are you doing this?
usually start maybe mid-September.
Okay.
And then in the last couple of years, maybe mid-September, a good day for September was maybe 3 fish and maybe lose 2.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, if you remember, it right around Labor Day, we had like a week of really cool weather,
Mm-hmm.
and we had one little rain. And that one little rain and that cool weather brought them in, and there was a bunch. I was starting out catching 10, 15 right off the bat a day. You know, doing very well.
That's great.
The other thing you were showing me earlier is that you use a water wolf underwater camera.
Yes.
Tell me about that and how you deploy that.
If anybody wants to, they can go to John Breedlove Steelhead on YouTube. There's at least 3 videos in there for my water wolf. What I do is I have the water wolf on there. The line going to the water wolf is 15-pound line. The water wolf to the lure is only 12.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I got some give there. But I'm only running that camera 18 inches above the spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I have run some cranks behind it, and it works very well. But I'm surprised the fish aren't bothered by it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't seem bothered by it at all. And then the one video I showed you is actually a steelhead hitting the lure from the front, missing it, going a couple feet past the lure, stopping on a dime, turning around, and coming and getting, you know,
Wow.
nailing the lure.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty neat to see how he could stop, come back, even though that lure is still moving away from him, and catch up to it and get it.
Yeah. That video, how is that, going back and watching that, has that changed how you fish at all?
Well, there's another video I have on YouTube where actually a steelhead misses it 3 times till he finally gets it to the 4th time.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things is if you see the rod move, don't touch it. You know, a lot of times you'll have a tendency, oh, it must be a weed or something, or I missed it, I better bring it in case something's wrong. Leave it out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe after a minute or 2, if nothing happens, bring it in. If you want to check it. But they will come back and they'll, you know, if they're hungry, if they missed it, they're going to come back. Maybe not once, maybe not twice. Like I said, in the one video, finally got it on the 4th try.
Mm-hmm. Lionel Richie said once, twice, 3 times a lady. you got to go 4.
You got it.
You got to go 4.
I'm more interested, like, how are you cooking these? Are you a big eater of these steelhead?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
I've got some friends that love to smoke these things.
Mm-hmm.
And when we kept our first big steelhead out of Lake Erie, down out of Cranberry, we were fishing the fall brawl. My buddy Mike Urema, he smoked. He said it was the best tasting steelhead he's ever eaten.
A
So if
lot of
you've got a
people,
recipe to change my weights, tell
I
me.
don't eat them. It's to me, it's the fun of catching them.
Okay.
You
Cool.
know, and every time, my one buddy, he goes in his, we always say we're fishing together, but he's in his boat and I'm in my boat. And the reason we do that is we can cover more water. Say today we launch and you say, okay, the lake is able to get on, or the river's able, both are able to get on. Hey, I'm going to go upriver and I'm going to check it out. Okay, I'm going to go out in the lake. And then we just call each other. But we talk all day. Hey, what are you doing good on this, or what color here, or whatever there. But the fun part is, especially when I either make, a lot of my lures are made by me, or I have my friend airbrush them. But a lot of them I've been doing myself using WTP lure tape.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Acme does a great job of making the spoons in a lot of colors, but there's colors that I would like. Or there's blue and chrome, but hey, what about blue, or what about chrome and blue prism tape? How's that work? So I buy the lure tape, and the nice thing about it too is you can put it on there. If it doesn't work, you peel it back off and you start over again.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have lures painted, then you're kind of stuck with that, unless you want to sand it back off. But I play with a lot of, in fact, a lot of my flutter spoons, some of them are exterminator lure, but the rest of them, I bought them from Lake Erie Walleye Candy. You ever hear of them?
Mm-hmm.
And they will sell them either in gold finish, hammered, or chrome, or in hammered chrome. And then I make them the color I want. And, everybody likes to make all these different colors on there. And a lot of mine, it just looks like a big, giant little Clio. Hey, if blue and chrome works, I'm going to make a bigger one.
Yeah.
If the hammered one works good, I'm just going to make a bigger one, And it's been working very well.
So you start in September. When do you kind of hang it up for the year?
When I can't get boat and water anymore. And then I'm calling everybody mother and brother, trying to, nice thing about calling out in the harbor, there's a camera that looks right at the launch ramp. So when it's froze solid, I know it. But like Ashtabula, the launch ramp on the lake, it's, once you get into late November, it's so silted in that you can't, it's maybe a foot deep. So you have to go launch in the river at Kisters, and I don't have any eyes on that. So some people I've learned live near there, and they'll drive by and look for me.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I just contact. If I can't get any more, then I just, wait till we get a thaw or something.
Yeah.
But right now you can go steelhead, or you can go ice fishing for them. The only reason I haven't been up yet is because I had surgery a couple weeks ago. So me trying to drill a hole was not good. I had hernia surgery, so I got to behave myself. Is the only reason. But right now at Conneaut, you can go out in front of the gas pump, over around the docks, drill holes, fish for steelhead. It's a blast on a 3-foot rod.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
All right. Well, what do you do in June then? Because just based on the conversation I had with you earlier and this one we're having right now, you seem pretty caught up on the steelhead fishing. So what are you doing when you're not going and chasing these guys?
When I'm not chasing, I'm doing bass tournaments.
Okay.
I have a bass boat, and I do bass tournaments all summer long. And then I even coach in the student fishing league. Gentleman started it. There's over 150 kids, but it's called the SFL, which is in Ohio. But he started that, and I helped coach in that. And that's fun to teach the next generation of what to do. The one kid 2 years ago, he had never caught a fish yet. I got him with me. He did very well. He even said, I'm going to win one, whatever else. He did win one. He got big bass and whatever else. And then last year I didn't coach him because I wasn't sure of the exact date of my surgery, because I actually had hernia surgery first because it was real bad. And they woke me up and said, John, we got good news and bad news. Good news, we fixed the left side. Bad news, yeah.
Right side.
So you got to come back in a
course.
couple months. So that's what I did in January, and go back and do the other side. Yes. So, but I do bass fishing. I have a Skeeter ZX 200. In fact, my rods are all Kistler rods. They're made out of Texas. And I'm fishing local lakes. I'm up to Chautauqua and whatever, but I'm doing bass tournaments.
Very cool.
That's awesome. That's great.
Greg, anything for John?
I just love your passion about, fishing out of a small boat and having a passion for steelhead. A lot of guys think of Lake Erie as walleyes only, and you found a niche down there that's, I think unique. And, to share a little bit of that information, we really appreciate it, because I know for a fact that some days you just get out there and you're like, you know what, let's just do something different.
Yeah.
This might be something to just go and try to tackle, even in a bigger boat, could still get away with it. But, you know, I just love hearing this little hand-to-hand combat with those steelhead because they're just feisty.
They're a
you know?
blast.
They
And I
are.
even have a lot of contacts that come down from Michigan because they've seen posts that I've made on. They have it's called OGF, Ohio Game Fish. I've made posts on there, and then on Facebook, and a bunch of different things. But guys come down from Michigan, and I'm like, why are you coming down? He goes, John, a good day up there is maybe 2-3 fish.
Mhm.
Yes, ours may be bigger than yours, but you're catching 30 and 40 in a day. Yeah.
Yep.
The thing I like about what you're saying, though, we get a lot of people that touch base with us that want to get into the trolling game, and maybe they don't have a boat that can handle the water. Maybe they don't have a ton of electronics. But really, what you're telling me, what you're describing, is something that if somebody wants to start trolling as a beginner, like it sounds really beginner friendly.
I mean, you can even use a 16-foot boat or a 14-foot boat. Maybe there's some days you can't go on the outside of the wall. You can fish the inside of the harbor or fish the slip area, which is very well protected, or go up the river. At Conneaut, you can go up a mile. Each river, Conneaut, Ashtabula, the Grand, you can go at least a mile up the river.
Yeah.
And there's maybe a few people or nobody at all. There's times at Conneaut, I'm fishing in maybe the middle of November. I'm the only boat there on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I got the whole place to myself. And I'm catching fish after fish and
Yeah.
nobody around.
Life is good.
Yeah, that sounds tough. John, anything else you wanted to talk about before we let you go here today?
No, just, people ask me, why do you do so good? I said, I've been doing it for years. And they'll say, well, I'll go up and I'll catch a couple until maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30. And, I've learned over the years, especially when you get clear water, you got to make adjustments all day long. What I use it from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock is not the lure that I'm using from 11 to 1. And one of the things I've learned is even though you make bright lure or flashy lures, steelhead, when that water is really clear, maybe from 10 to 2, they become chrome shy. They don't like that flash. So sometimes say, we're going to throw it out there, you were using blue and chrome. I'll use a lure that's blue and gray. And guess what? I'm still catching. So things to think about. And then another thing too is a lot of people just keep throwing it out all day. If I see seagulls or I see fish breaking the surface, I'm going to shorten them lines up. I don't see anything, I'm going to let more line out. Same thing in the river. If I go in the river, I don't see any porpoising or whatever, I'll maybe let more line out. Or if I'm going up the river and I see porpoising and all of a sudden I don't see it anymore, I know I've passed them up and they went back the other way.
Cool.
So you do got to pay attention. You do got to, watch, and then kind of remember, hey, when I caught him, the water looked like this, and I used this lure and I did good. Remember that, that the next time that situation pops up,
Sounds like your tournament bass fishing mentality kind of takes over on that, right?
Yes.
Got to make something happen when nothing's happening.
Actually, I've taken some stuff from steelhead fishing to the bass, and one of the things I learned was, you have a lot of these different baits. Some of them have metallic flake in them, and some of them don't. There's days I've learned bass don't want metallic flake. I'll use maybe a green pumpkin with black flake in it, which does nothing, and whatever. And then there's other days I found we'll take a D-bomb destroyer with the green pumpkin flash. And I mean, you throw that thing in there and they just start hammering it. And other days they won't touch it. And a lot has to do with the same thing as with the steelhead. They don't want that flash. There's days it bothers them and days it doesn't. And I don't know what makes the difference. I just know, on a bright sunny day, I change lures a lot more than I do on a cloudy day.
Gotcha.
On a cloudy day, you're more consistent. You can kind of fish somewhat the same thing all day and it will work. But it's the sunny day that makes you have to work for it.
All right. Well, John, I appreciate you stopping by. You came by and talked to us earlier
Thanks, John.
today.
Appreciate it.
Introduced yourself. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Absolutely.
Like Craig said, we can tell you're passionate about this, and it comes through. And it's, we have a lot of charter captains come on the show, and it's great to have those guys. But I like really talking to kind of the average Joe kind of angler too, and it's a good time having you on.
Actually, I've been doing this for a long time. There's magazine articles about me, there's newspaper, and a bunch of stuff. But somebody asked me one time, "Are you a guide?" And I said, "No." "Well, don't you want to be a guide?" I said, "No. I don't want to ruin it.
Right.
I don't want to make it a job."
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people have went and made a guide, and they're like, "This sucks."
Yeah. Hey, Jeff.
So,
All right, sir. Thank you. Our next guest is hanging out here.
It's going to be Jeff Vaskilinski if it's not somebody else.
Saw him walk by a couple times. Where'd he go?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for visiting with us. Good
Yeah.
to hear. I love a little bit of that. Take a little of that steelhead stuff and maybe turn it over to the walleye world.
Yeah, there he is. Here's Chuck.
There's Chucky. Chucky Earls from the west side. What's happening up, Chuck? Chuck. How you doing, big guy? Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Dad's over there. Yeah. Chucky Earls from the kayak world. This is interesting. We've gone from Tommy Miranda and a Lund to now a little tin 40 horse. We're just keep downsizing as we go through the day here. Pretty soon we'll be on.
We're gonna get bigger later.
All right. Paddle boards. I love it. I love it.
Doing good, doing good.
How's the show in Florida?
Exhausting.
Yeah.
It's a good show though. You know, I really like this one because it has the separate rooms.
Yeah.
So it's more personal with the people. You can interact better and not have all the distractions like people walking by and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So you're doing seminars. What are your seminars on this weekend of the show?
I'm doing like a kayak fishing crash course.
Mhm.
Kind of like, you know, just an
Teaching
intro-
people how to crash in their kayaks.
How to survive a crash in your kayak.
Yeah.
or at least, you know, get back in it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm also doing a one on kayak rigging.
Okay.
Just kind of break down those aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Doing one on big water kayak fishing for walleye. And then like an intro to forward facing, just real basic.
Yeah.
You know. And then the kayak fishing, the Legends Underwater Kayak Fishing Expert Roundtable,
Okay.
which is it's a collection of, I think I have 12 different experts.
Okay.
From, you know, kayak designers to, like, you know, some of the best tournament anglers on the kayak side, to, you know, accessory manufacturers, lithium batteries, and just create something to where it doesn't matter what you want to do with your kayak or where you want to fish or, you know, who you are. There's something for everybody to kind of answer those questions and just make it easy. Because, you know, if it's too hard to get into or if it's too hard to learn,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people are just going to get turned off. So.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about rigging. Someone goes out and they buy a new kayak to go out on Lake Erie or maybe Lake Michigan or Lake Ontario. They want to go fish big water with their kayak. What do they need to do? What does that look like?
Well, the first thing that I would say is if you're brand new to kayak fishing, start with an inland lake. Maybe something that has kind of, you know, the geographics where it's like a bowling alley style, you know, where you can put yourself into a windy situation where it gets a little choppy, but you're still, you know, 10, 15 feet from shore. So if you do get in that situation, you can kind of bail out real quick.
Yep.
And then once you start learning those skill sets, then you can start, you know, expanding offshore a little bit. It's always a good idea to go with somebody experienced, or, you know, hire a guide like me. But it really depends on, with the big body of water, it really comes down to like the safety gear is the important stuff. You know, obviously a life jacket, a good PFD, your VHF radio, because a lot of spots you leave shore and your phone's not sending a text message.
Especially if it's wet.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. You know, and a phone tether, because
There you go.
you can't retrieve it 60 foot down.
Yep.
And you know, stuff like that, stuff that's it's maybe not necessarily gonna make your fishing trip more pleasurable, but it gets you back to your family at the end of the day.
That's more pleasurable.
You know, and then once you get that stuff, it's absolutely, you know, once you get that stuff dialed in, then you can kind of look at the electronics, or, you know, maybe a trolling motor with spot lock, or an electric outboard like I have to get to the fish faster, and then kind of build your kayak out like that. But you want to look at the kayak as well, you know, what you're going to be taking out there. It should be, the best way to do it is like a sit on top kayak that's self-bailing. Sit insides can do it, but if it doesn't have the front and back bulkheads, one wave is going to swamp that thing and you're not recovering.
Yep.
You also want something that seals real good, so all your hatches, you know, because most people on inland lakes, they're not taking a lot of water over.
Right.
But on Lake Erie, I mean, every other wave's coming over, you know, so I have to have dry compartments, so I'm not just sitting there filling up my boat. And then you know, depending on how I want to fish, if I'm going to primarily like jig for perch or you know, jig for walleye, or I like to cast, maybe I want something with a bow mount with spot lock, you know, so I can just sit on that spot and do what I want to do. If you're gonna tournament fish or you're gonna be chasing walleye like me, I want to get to the fish as fast as I can. You know, especially on tournament day, or like if I have a paying client, I want to be out there as fast as I can, and I want to be back as fast as I can. That way we have the most time to fish, you know.
So yeah, so how big of a motor are we putting in these things now, right? I mean, you're saying fast. Are we talking electric motor run on your batteries, right? How fast can you get someplace? I mean, how fast can you
mean,
get this kayak going? People
we're
want to
not
know.
we're not talking your boat fast, but we'll go you know, 6 to 6.5 miles an hour on average,
That's
depending
cooking.
on, you know, for a kayak it's not bad.
Yeah.
And depending on your range and the battery that you're using, and obviously the speed you're going, you can cover good water. You know, for example, like my Torpedo, if I'm just going trolling speed, I can cover 100 miles on one battery. You know, but if I'm fishing the loot, I'm probably making a 40-mile run over the course of the day, so I'm burning through 3 batteries because I'm full speed. You know, full speed to the first spot, full speed back. You know, and I'm trying to capitalize on that. So it
Yeah.
the best advice I could say is find a reputable shop, you know, like uh Raccoon Creek Outfitters or somebody like that that's actually going to listen to you as a consumer, and you know, not just say, oh, you need this boat. They're going to actually break it down and find your needs and advise you into something that's going to be, you know, the best thing for what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you're taking water over every other wave. So how do you set those electronics up on your boat? Because they don't like water. So let's get a little bit back into that and like how you kind of set everything up on your boat so that you can see it, it's useful to you, but it survives too. I mean, we want to survive as humans, but we also don't want to buy electronics all the time.
Exactly. You know, and I had that problem. I killed my active target, I think, because I had the black box in the inside of the hull, and even the driest, most sealed kayak is still going to get condensation and stuff in there. You know, so that is definitely something that you want to consider if you are using like a lithium battery in there, or if you're going live scope. Get yourself a Pelican box, or Harbor Freight has decent boxes, you know, for pretty affordable, and do it that way. As far as like the screen and stuff, I've never had any issues with the screens. Even, you know, a couple times you have people make mistakes, they get excited or something like that, and they end up flipping over. And the electronics, as long as your doors are on and your covers are on and stuff, it's fine. You know, the only issue is like some of them, you know, the SD card slot will open up and you get water in there.
Yep.
Really, the only thing that I do with the wiring is just install like a through hole kit that it's a rubber grommet so that I can drill through the hole, and then I'll use super glue to put the rubber back together. So it's one solid piece, and then, you know, obviously silicone and stuff, just to keep the water out of, you know, the inside of my vessel.
Yeah. All right. Let's go fishing. What does it look like if we're gonna go out and do a little trolling in our kayak?
Well, right now, if we go now, we need a flamethrower.
We're not going now.
But you know, if we're at the boat ramp and we're getting ready to go out, and you know, most of the time trolling is generally the starting point. Not because like trolling's my favorite thing. I do enjoy the scientific side of it, you know, and it puts fish in the boat. But it's all a tool. You know, trolling, jigging, casting, drifting, it all has its place. So on a kayak, because we're slow moving, I can't just pick up and run 5 miles and try to find some other fish.
Right.
So I need to find those small pockets of those active fish. So a lot of times we'll just troll on the way out there, especially if they're human powered. You know, we're already going that speed, might as well throw some lines out. And then when you get your first hit, I mean, you're gonna mark a waypoint, because maybe you've been marking fish for miles, and all of a sudden you came across this quarter-mile section. Those are active fish. Mark that waypoint. That way, if you go, you know, say another mile, and you have no action, you just go back to that waypoint and you're going to catch another fish. And that also gives you the ability to head back there and drift fish or, you know, jig fish. Like I've been having a lot of fun with like the vertical jigging spoons and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to get a feel for, you know,
Absolutely.
how to effectively use those in deep water. I mean, 40, 50 foot of water, you got a lot of variables trying to get that thing vertical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how often do you change your plans when you're out there? You know, what does that plan look like? And then how fluid does it have to be?
So weather plan generally doesn't change unless we, you know, sometimes Lake Erie doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't just kick up out of nowhere. I mean, if you keep your head on a swivel, you're gonna see that storm coming in unless it's blocked by a landmass.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, so in that situation, obviously we would audible and get the hell off the water, and we'd have plenty of time to do that. But like on the course of a fishing day, I'm bringing the kitchen sink. So doesn't matter if you know, we find some active fish and the only thing they want is drift fishing or casting. I have the rods, I have all the tackle. We'll just pivot. And basically, like how it works, I'm focused on the client. You know, I'm not out there to fish. I love to fish, obviously, but I love watching my clients catch fish. And it's my job to focus on them so that I can identify their challenges that I can dial in for them, you know. Well, sometimes they struggle a little bit, or it's just we're using the wrong presentation. And, you know, we haven't really verified that they don't want that today yet. You know what I mean? When it gets to that point and the day's kind of getting longer, say we're halfway through the trip, now I'm starting to panic like this dude's not going to go home with any fish. We need to put some fish in the boat. So I'll throw out a couple different lines, just a couple different situations and change it up a little bit and see if I can pick something up. Or I might say, you know, like, hey, keep going that direction. I'm gonna just drop something down real quick right here and see if we can pick them up jigging. So I try to kind of keep them going on the plan until I can identify like what's the next change,
Sure.
you know, and then we just go from there.
All right. Let's say the stars align. We got a fish on our kayak.
That's
What's
hand-to-hand
what's
combat.
what's that
Yeah,
look
what's
like?
that like? Here we go. You and the fish.
It is controlled chaos and sometimes uncontrolled chaos. Uh, Especially if it's like a steelhead or something like that that's just going crazy. And maybe you've never kayak fished before, if you've never been in a kayak that has rod holders up here or like a fish finder. So there's so many different variables. Maybe they're snagging on stuff, or maybe we're running a snap weight program, so they don't fully understand how to keep that line tight. So I gently give them advice as they're fighting the fish, to try to make sure they're successful with it. And I'm always ready to net the fish if I have to, but I want them to do it, you know. Like I'll net your fish if you're about to lose it, but I want you to gain that experience, you know, because it's different from the boats. Like you just call the net guy, hey,
Yeah.
net the fish.
Yeah.
You're a one-man band right now.
We got to bring the rod back here and bring that fish up at the right time, so it's not just coming across the surface and popping off, right?
Yeah.
And then get that net underneath far enough so that we can bring that up. So it's just I think that's why a lot of people attract to it, because you know, if it was easy, you get bored quick, right? If it's you constantly have that new challenge, that new thing to kind of figure out and dial in, it keeps you coming back. And that's really how I evolved from a $450 used kayak, you know, sit inside paddle kayak, to like that unit you see down there.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're always looking for like the next opportunity to learn, the next opportunity to push the limits. Yeah.
How many rods? I mean, do you run 2 rods when you're out trolling? Is it 1 rod? What does that client do with that other line when they're battling the fish?
So when I first started, I would just throw 2 rods. You know, here you go. Here's your 2 rods. And I realized it would take them a lot longer to understand how to control 1 rod because they're too busy focusing on both. So they're missing key things on that one rod. So now what I do is I start them off with one rod. You're solely focused on that one rod. You're focused on where the line's going, how the line's acting, you know, like the details. And then once you get that dialed in, you can switch over. I'll throw you a second rod and you can put it out. And I mean, there is going to be mistakes. You know, you'll wrap a line in the pedal drive or even in the motor, or in my motor. You know, it's even after all the time I have out there, once in a while I do it. I did it 8 miles offshore on Fairport.
Man.
You know, like I had an hour to get back. I
Going nowhere fast.
wrapped half a spool in there because I forgot, like my third line, I must have had a fish or something. And at the end of the tournament, or if there's weather coming in, I'll set a timer couple hours before, just to kind of give me a heads up to like, hey, check the radar, make sure it didn't come in early, push forward. Well, my first couple timers went off, you know, and I pushed it to the last timer. I'm like, all right, if I don't go in now, I'm not making it back to check-in, and I'm disqualified. You know, so I reel my 2 lines in that are up here, reel them in real quick, flip around. I'm you know, barreling down full speed, maybe get a half a mile, and my motor gives me an error code. And I turn around and I see my third rod that I forgot that was back there, you know, because it's usually up here, so I could see them all three going right into the motor. And
You're like, that's bad.
I mean, it was 2 to 3 footers out there, you know, and I wasn't in the Titan X, I was in the Slayer, so it's not as stable. And I'm like, shit, I have a paddle. It's gonna take me 4 hours to get back with a paddle, you know. And I ended up having to climb back there and pull the motor. But you know, that stuff's gonna happen. It's, you want to kind of go out there expecting that there's gonna be something that's gonna go wrong. But
Sounds like a boat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like a real boat.
But you know,
But there's always something, right?
It comes down to the reaction, right? Especially of the guy that's guiding you, because, well, for example, I had one guy that he wanted to switch the handle on the reel, and usually I do that, but I'm like, yeah, go ahead and switch it. Well, as soon as he took the cap off, the cap went down, and you know, his face went white, and it ruined his day. And I'm like, dude, don't worry about that cap. Like, I'll worry about that cap when we get off the water. You know.
But you got to have plan B out there.
You just got to rein them back in, because I don't want you not to catch fish because you're worried about, like, you broke one of my rods. Who cares? Cost of doing business. Let's catch some fish. You know.
All right, Chuck, about time to wrap up. Anything else you wanted to get to before we let you go here?
I
know you're doing a podcast yourself, right?
Yep, just doing a great interview out there a few weeks ago. That was a good one.
Yeah, I have the Angler's Wisdom podcast live every Thursday night at usually at 8 p.m.
Okay.
I do have a couple of shows that are a little bit earlier because, you know, some people schedule. I also have you know, the kayak fishing roundtable tomorrow over here, and hopefully the ice goes away, so I can start getting out there and, you know, getting people on some fish, or at least get some on the water time.
Very cool.
I guess the most important thing that I'll leave you with is, you know, if you're gonna get into kayak fishing, just you know, think about everything. Think about your family. Think about the things that you don't know that could possibly take your life, you know. And it's not a cool competition, you know. Put your life jacket on, leave a float plan. Don't get complacent out there, and just, you know, like, reach out to somebody that has the experience, and I guarantee you 90% of them are going to be like, look, here's the book, because we want you to stay alive. We want you to fish another day, you know. That would be the most important thing, is, you know, like I always say, fishing is life, but safety comes first.
Very good. If you want to find out more about Chuck, you can go to his website, LakeErieKayakFishing.com. He's Chuck Earls. Thank you very much, sir.
Brother.
Dude, always nice seeing you, brother.
Okay, seeing you.
Grab that mic from you, and we'll be on to round number 4.
And Craig, I forgot to tell you, and we started we had a lot going on in the booth here right before we started. See you, Chuck. Our next guests have got 2 people.
Ooh,
So we're gonna give you 20 minutes off,
appreciate that.
and we'll bring you back for Chris Engels.
2 for 1 special.
We'll bring these
I
guys
love
in.
it.
Can we borrow your mic?
You
from
totally can. I'm gonna check in with Dad, see how things are going
All right.
over at the booth. We'll get these guys in. I'll come back and see you.
Sounds
You
good.
need a refreshment, shoot me a call, huh?
All right,
All
sounds good. Come on in, guys.
Here's a mic for you guys. There you go. Good luck in there.
Yeah, thanks.
Here's one for you. And we've been talking a lot of Lake Erie here, so now it's we're gonna talk some Lake Ontario with you guys.
Sounds good.
Need some help with that?
This is a magnet.
It's a magnet, but with your thing you got, you can just clip it right on there.
Oh, I got it.
Just clips on there. There you go.
See,
So we got Kevin and Logan Noon with us. Logan, Kevin, 3L Flies. Tell us a little bit about your business. I know we had you on last year, but new audience this year. Tell me a little bit about 3L Flies.
So the 3Ls is my 3 boys, Logan, Liam, and Landon. Many years ago, when Logan was 7 years old, he asked for a fly tying kit for his birthday, and we had to come through with that. And one thing led to another. We went on a fishing charter, and we looked at the flies they were tying, that they were running. Said, hey, you could probably tie those, and 6 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
You guys got a big booth here at the show. How's business been going?
It's in spurts. We'll get real busy for 20 minutes and then real slow for an hour, and then we'll get real busy again. So it's been pretty steady. It's good. I know we're kind of the new kid on the block still.
Yeah.
Nobody really, not many people outside of Alcott know who we are, but it's good. We started selling to people in Michigan. A lot of coho flies out there for those guys, and we got 2 orders while we were here for that. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
It's Friday. I think tomorrow's
the day.
Should be a busy day. And I was talking to some guys that are going to go to the salmon school on Saturday, and they're like, "Yep, we go to the salmon school on Saturday, we go to the round table Sunday, and then we go out there and spend all of our money." So hopefully Sunday they come and spend some money with you.
Yeah, they got their pockets aren't empty when they're here. They know those guys are
right.
They're fishermen like all of us, so they want to.
Exactly. We always have a little secret stash of money
absolutely.
for the fishing stuff.
Yeah, you don't have to tell your wife about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Sometimes you got to have a little pocket money for that.
Yeah.
Logan, what's going on with you?
Nothing much.
Yeah.
School, trying to fish whenever I can.
I heard you did well at some tournaments last year.
Yeah, we did good in the Pro-Am. I caught the lots of winning, not the lots, the LOC winning Steelhead.
Yeah. How big?
15, 9 ounces.
Out of Alcott? Yeah. What was the check?
1,500?
That's a good check. Yeah. And I hear you're working with Vinny?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me about how that's going.
Good. It'll be my 5th season.
Yep. What's Vince teaching you?
A lot.
What's it mean to you? I mean, we're gonna have Vince Pirlioni on tomorrow morning. He'll be our co-host for tomorrow's show. What does it mean to you to have somebody like that who has that kind of experience in that port? And I think this will be Vinny's 41st year to get out there and be able to absorb that information from him.
It's everything. It's my dream to be out on that lake every day.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life.
I hear that you're talking about captain's license when you're 18.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're keeping on working for Vinny until you turn 18. And then maybe Vinny will have a boat for you, but maybe you can run your own boat?
Or however it works out.
I think his plan is that Dad's gonna give him his boat.
All right.
That's probably where.
There you go.
I think that's his angle, maybe, but I think Dad might want to keep his boat. I don't know if he can get that quite yet.
What are you guys running for a boat?
We have a 27 Sierra.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
You
can do some charters out of that.
I think we could. It's a perfect boat when it's me and the 3 boys and my wife out. There's enough room. There's enough room when we get up early in the morning to start some of these tournaments that if Landon needs to take a nap, he can go down in the cuddy. We got him all set up down there. We'll move the rods for him. He could maybe snooze a little bit and wakes up. the cooler's full, and he said, "Hey, it looked like we did pretty good."
So did good.
Yeah. So
Let's go get a sandwich.
yeah,
Yep.
if we limit early, the prize is we get to go out to breakfast. That
There
was
you
what
go.
we did that the
Yeah.
first day of the Pro-Am this year, so they were excited about that.
So my favorite part of Alcott is there's like a convenience store, and they got that homemade ice cream in there.
East Side Market?
Market.
Yeah.
We see Ange and Tyler quite a bit. Yep,
Yeah.
I like to go down and see those guys. Yeah,
That
they're
place
awesome.
is ridiculous.
Do you get the breakfast sandwiches when you're down there?
No, I just get the ice cream when I'm there,
Dude,
but
you're
the
missing out.
breakfast.
You're missing
Got it.
out.
You're missing out.
Yeah.
Big time on the breakfast sandwiches.
All right.
For sure.
Yeah, we were there. I think it was last year. I think we went for wings. There's like a
Maxwell Station.
big place for wings, so we
Yeah.
went and had wings. And then we swung by and got some of that homemade ice cream. That was so good.
Yeah, and Maxwell's is the spot for
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah. So I mean, forget about the fishing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Let's talk about what we can
the
eat,
food.
right? But tell me about the fishing, though. You know, you guys do a lot of tournaments. How does your season go? Like, how many tournaments are you guys fishing, and when do you start?
We fish as many as we financially can, to be honest with you. We'll start first one is the Wilson Big Boy,
Mhm.
and Craig does an awesome job with that. He gets it. It's a 1 day tournament. It's a Saturday before Mother's Day, so we have Sunday off. And then the following weekend we fish the Wilson Invitational, and then there's a gap for Memorial Day. Then we'll fish the Niagara Pro-Am out of our home port in Alcott, which is it's a local family that runs that too. Penny Hartman does an awesome job with that, and
Mhm.
it's fun because I fish with the three boys. It's
Mhm.
me and the three boys, and they all get to miss school because it's a Friday Saturday, so they get excited
Yeah.
about that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I think actually Logan's gonna fish further east this year too. Um, he's available, so he's going. If Finn's going and Logan's going, so he's pretty pumped about that. Aren't you a little bit or
Just
no?
a little bit.
Yeah. So you normally do your own thing, but you're gonna go fish with Vinny in a tournament out east.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Tell me so you got a family group that goes out for tournament fishing. What are the roles? What do you guys do and who does what in the boat during the tournament?
I just drive.
You drive.
That's it. I don't have to do anything but drive.
Who sets the lines?
Logan.
Logan?
Logan does. Liam's starting to do it too. Liam will get he'll do the divers. He'll start the long lines.
Mhm.
It's pretty smooth transition. The boys they all know what's going on, what we're doing, and
Mhm.
we'll discuss where we're starting and have a plan and stick to it. And sometimes it works really good, and other times it is not good at all. So that's Dad's fault when
Yeah.
we don't go to the right place. So
Right.
I'll take the blame for that. That's fine. But yeah, if a rod goes off, whoever's closest. The only problem with that is if Logan sees a rod go off and you may be like a split second late, you should just get out of the way.
Yeah, let him do it.
Yeah, because you're gonna get steamrolled.
Mhm. That's good. You got to get to that rod quick. Yep. You're too slow. You become a really good net man.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So what does a typical tournament program look for you guys? What does that look like?
This year we ran almost all spoons on our riggers.
Yep.
We ran 4 meat rigs all day.
4 riggers,
Yep.
Three riggers, and we had 2 divers,
2 divers,
one on each side, and we had 2 400s out on boards.
running all spoons.
4
4 meat rigs.
4
4
meat
meat
rigs.
rigs. Okay.
We're not going out and not running meat.
Yep.
It's guaranteed we're gonna put meat out.
Are you seeing your big fish come on your meat?
It's like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends. But we still have big fish come on our spoons.
Mm-hmm. What kind of speed do you guys like to run?
We're like 2.5 to start.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we'll go a little slower. You make a turn, see if you can get one to go on the turn. If it's on your slow side or your fast side, then you know you either got to speed up or slow down. It was weird because the first day of the Pro-Am this year, it seemed like they wanted it. It was
Going as fast as
it was fast, and the second day it seemed like it was a lot slower. So
they're hitting 3-3 the first day, 2-2 the second day.
All right. Now, you and your brother are both setting lines. Do you guys set your own program, or you kind of do the same thing, or does he do things one way and you do things a different way?
He does his a little different. I have my way, but it's just what I see with Vin. That's how I do it.
Who's this better?
All depends on the day.
That's a loaded question.
I had to ask it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to talking some flies here. As long as we got you here, we're talking some flies. What are some of your more popular patterns that you guys sell at 3L Flies?
Remember, you told me to bring them and I forgot.
You forgot, but you can at least describe them to us.
Liam's watching us. We can have Liam bring us a couple. But our best rigs always have green in them. Almost always have some sort of glow. Either if it doesn't have glow, it has mirage. That's seems to be pretty popular where we are in the lake. I think that's a lot to do with Niagara River. Nothing really super fancy, like different colors, weird colors like that. A lot of green, a lot of crush green, a lot of, you run it up high, it's usually shiny. It's got to have a lot of flash on it, a lot of mirage. And we run a lot of stuff that's deep that glows. The glow seems to work probably 95% of the time when we're out. We had one rig last year that was real popular with a couple of guys that had glow black and like a crushed mirage in the outside. That seemed to be one of the more popular rigs that we had.
What do you like to run your flies behind?
That's all you.
With both spin doctors and paddles.
Same colors. You do all. What do you do for colors with those?
We try to match them.
Okay.
But it's usually something. I love chrome. I fish just a lot of chrome. That's just me. But you'll still see me throw out an all glow 11-inch and sending it down 120 on a rigger.
So when you guys ship to your folks out in Michigan, colors different, colors the same? What are they like out there?
Completely different.
Yeah.
100% different. It seems they would like a lot of blues. They buy a lot of coho flies from us out there. Their coho flies they want a rubber leg on them, which is different than what they like up here. Like up here is mostly, if it's not orange, no one will buy it. No one's gonna run it. If out there it's blue mirage, not just there's a blue mirage and there's a just a regular mirage, and they want that little bit of a blue hint to it. It seems like that's more popular out there than it is here. There's a lot of it's completely different. My buddy Jay fishes both lakes, and he says the spoons that work in Michigan do not work in Ontario, and vice versa with the meat rigs, flies, paddles, stuff. It's just a different lake, different ball game. It's kind of it's not. I wouldn't say it's frustrating, but it's completely different. It's just the way they do it.
Very good.
It's similar but not the same.
Awesome, guys. Again, I got the website up on the page right now. It's 3lflies.com. If people want to find out more, they can go there. Anywhere else that you want to send people?
Karen, the Boat Doctors in Alcott carries our stuff.
Okay.
Chris's Fishing Tech has our coho flies on their website as well. And that's about it for online and local for right now. And Karen does great for us. She's was the first person that, when we were like brand new, came in and showed her. She says, "Yeah, well, we can sell those here." And it's been a good relationship with her. She's been great to us, and I like to stay stay local. There's a lot of good people in the business that we've met along the way. It's a lot of fun. It's not a job. This is fun for us to be here this weekend and to fish and do stuff like that. So it's a good time with the boys on the lake, on the water. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it more than these guys probably know.
Yeah.
So It's a good time.
Yeah. Well, Kevin and Logan Noon, appreciate you guys stopping by, and have a good rest of your show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Good luck. Pop those mics off and just put them right in the seat there. But appreciate you guys swinging by, and good luck this year, the rest of your tournament circuit.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin and Logan Noon from 3L Flies. We're gonna take this show on the road now officially, and see we got Mr. Chris Ingalls in the virtual green room. So I need you to sit right here, Craig. You're gonna put this headset on so you can hear Chris talk. We're gonna bring him in. We're gonna talk some flasher flies with Chris Ingalls.
Might have to get a selfie with these guys.
Chris, how you doing?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great. You can hear us?
I can hear you.
Awesome.
look
I
great.
love
You guys
the
look great.
studio. We don't look anywhere near as good as you do.
Whatever, dude. It takes a lot more in the studio to make me look good.
I like the wood background back there.
He looks awesome. Yeah.
Chris, that looks really sharp. Is that pallet wood? What'd you put back there?
No, it's just rough cut pine. A couple buddies of mine helped throw this whole thing together. They cut it up. They designed the whole thing. I just painted it up, and we all stuck it up here. It came out really nice.
Now you're at the Dreamweaver headquarters, right? Is that where this is?
I am at the World Dreamweaver headquarters.
Yeah, very cool. Chris, we're going to talk a little flasher flies today. It's something that's near and dear to your heart. By the way, you can go to tangledtacklecompany.com, find out more about Chris or his charter. It's darkbluecharters.com. But tell us a little bit about how you run your flasher flies, if you could.
Yeah, not a problem. That so hey, here's 20 minutes. Tell us all about flasher flies.
Yeah, tell us all about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it takes you a lifetime to even really kind of figure out a program at all, but I'll do my best. But first, thanks guys for having me on. I do appreciate it. I'm honored to be on here with all these other captains and business owners. You got a great group here. I am absolutely humbled to even be part of this thing. So thank you. But we're going to start off here with flasher fly. I mean, where do you want to go here? So I thought about this. How do I really want to do this? So I just thought I'd break it down to 6 different colors that if you're just starting out and you're trying to put together a flasher fly program, these are the 6 patterns along with some flies that I would absolutely recommend to have on the boat. These are ones that have performed for me very well over the years and other captains that I know. And the flies that I'll show you are all mix and match capable. So it's not like I'm going to show you one thing and you got to match it up with the exact fly. I'm telling you, any one of these 5 flies I'm going to show you can throw it on any one of these flashers. Is that all making sense so far, Chris?
Absolutely.
Okay,
We're going to let you keep going.
Okay, no problem. So let's start right here. Big paddles. If you're not running a big paddle on the boat, you absolutely should be. Whether or not this thing is putting fish in the boat for you, I 100% believe that this thing in your spread, typically on your deepest presentation, for me, it's almost always my center downrigger. If this thing's not at least catching fish, it's bringing fish into the boat. So if you're not running an 11-inch paddle, run one. Start right there with 2 of my favorite colors. All day, every day. These are all Dreamweaver products. This is the double pearl, also known as the double slick. This thing will work for you sunny days, cloudy days, rainy days, you name it. This thing is going to put fish in the boat. I'll switch it over to the black blade, same double pearl, but I'll switch over to the black blade on. We have sometimes, a darker day, cloudy day, foggy day, rainy day. Seems to be on those darker overcast days, the black blade does a little bit better for you. And these things you can run, like I said, you can run them deep, you can run them shallow. Typically, like I said already, this is on my deepest presentation. This thing is normally sitting right in the morning, right at my thermocline, maybe 10 to 20 feet below it. Then as the day goes on, I'm dropping this thing down deeper and deeper and deeper to get that later day bite for you. Great big presentation, puts a lot of ripple on the water, a lot of sound, a lot of noise, a lot of commotion. It's going to put fish in the boat. And I'll talk about the flies at the end here, Chris, if that's all right with you. I'll go over what colors I'm going to pick off of these things. We good?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
I knew
All right.
you'd have a plan, so I'm like, I'll just let Chris go.
I don't mean to, yeah, just let me babble on for hours. Why not? I do it every Sunday on the YouTube channel. So here's one other color I'm going to throw out there in the big paddle. This is the color that Dreamweaver came out with last year called Charlie Special. I don't have it in the 11-inch, but they do have it in the flip fin. This thing I started running last year, right when they put it out. And I found on sunny days or even on dark days, running this thing down, I don't typically like to run that color pattern much more than 78 or 80 feet. Seems to really produce a lot better up there. But I know boats around here, this pattern's been around for a long time. But I know this thing has put tons of fish for a lot of really good tournament boats over the years. So 3 color patterns you got to have on the big paddles: black and the white and the pearl and the Charlie Special. Put those in the boat. You're going to catch a few more fish. Guaranteed, not guaranteed, but they're going to get some fish for you. So we'll start into some spin doctors now. Here's 5 of my favorites, rather, that have absolutely produced wonderfully over the years. Probably the mother of them all, the Kevin's Girlfriend. Everybody knows about Kevin's Girlfriend. Everybody probably knows the backstory on why it's named Kevin's Girlfriend. If you don't, you email me and I'll tell it to you. I don't want to say it on here. But that thing right there is, I remember one year we put 3 fish over 30 pounds. This is just a couple years ago. We put 3 fish over 30 pounds in the boat. That thing took 2 of them. 2 of them with a Riverside fly or a pickled sunshine fly. But I have a love-hate relationship with this thing, Chris. I swear to God, this thing will break up with me from time to time and just not put a fish in the boat. So last year, I actually put this thing in the box and only ran it a couple. Maybe I even ran it one time. I don't remember it, but it was very, very few. But this thing will, regardless, this thing's going to put fish in the boat for you, and it typically puts really big fish in the boat. We'll move on to another absolute staple. I already talked about this color. These are all an 8-inch, 8-inch spin doctors, except for one I got a 10-inch. But these are all going to be 8 inches. 8 inches are typically what I like to run more on my flies. 10-inch spin doctors, I tend to run more with meat rigs. So don't be afraid, though, to mix and match. If you want to run some flies on some 10-inch spin doctors, hey, have at it. There's days it's probably going to produce for you just as well as the 8-inch. But 8-inch double pearl, that thing's on one of my lines all day, almost every day. And like I said earlier, these are typically on my downrigger, my deepest downrigger. My favorite presentations for the rest of these is typically on my divers. Typically on my high divers, I'm running flash or fly. Might be on all 4 of my divers, I'm running flash or fly. But it's typically high divers, 2 flash or flies are out. Now my low divers, I'm running meat rigs on my 10-inch spin doctors. But this thing, you can run it on coppers too. You can run it on lead core. You can run it on your riggers, you name it. You can run it anywhere. But that thing, if you're not running that double pearl 8-inch with one of these flies I'm going to mention, you're missing the boat. That thing has probably produced more fish for me over the years as far as any other flasher than anything else. Here's its brother right here. And this one's great early morning, white blade, but this has got the white crush on it versus the white pearl. You can definitely see the difference. This one glows a little longer and a little brighter. So early morning, I mean, if you're out there at the crack, you know what, at dawn, like a lot of guys are, you get them out there at 3:30 to beat the traffic. Get one of these white crush 8-inch spin doctors out there with one of these flies, especially with one of these flies that has a lot of glow in it or a lot of glow beads in it. That thing will definitely produce for you in those low light hours. Moving on, the 8-inch double pearl black blade. It's just like that one. That one's actually a 10-inch. That's an 8-inch. Same reasons I said before. Bright sunny days. That thing right there is going to produce for you. This one will also in the bright sunny days, but that black blade, just like that one on your darker, foggier days, your cloudy days, whatever, seems to pick up a few more fish. You know the old saying, bright day, bright color, dark day, dark colors. It's true. I don't know why it's true, but it is. Last but not least here, and then I'm going to go over the flies. Now, we'll talk a little bit about, excuse me, a little bit about leader length and what I typically run. But the Dragon Slayer, that thing right there has been an absolute staple on Lake Michigan. And what's that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I thought I heard something.
We got people around us, so you may just have heard them.
Yeah, no problem. I know there's other Great Lakes other than Lake Michigan. I can't remember the names of them, but that thing on Lake Michigan has been has been so good for so long. Don't overlook that thing. Not only with a fly on there, but also with a meat rig on that thing. Absolutely deadly. You guys got any questions on the flasher before I get into the flies?
Yeah, Chris, just tell us a little bit about what these do as far as action. What do they do to add that attraction to your fly?
Yeah, great question, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because one of the common questions that I get, if you look on that spin doctor, there's 2 holes up on the front, and there's 2 holes on the back, one by the fins and one away from the fins. So always run this thing on the front hole. I don't know. I think on the back hole, you're going to get a little larger rotation, a little larger loop in the water. And then back here by the fins is going to give you a little more action on your fly. And what these things do is just that they're pulled through the water. Obviously, this is a trolling presentation. As they're going through the water, they're cutting through and they're making great big loops as they go through. What that's doing to your fly, which is trailing behind here on this double swivel. I love Dreamweaver because they put double swivels on these things. Before, you'd have to tie a loop knot in your fly, and then you'd have to thread it through the swivel itself in like a half hitch. These double swivels work so well. But anyway, back on subject. Obviously, they're pulling the fly through the water. The longer the lead on your fly, the less action you're going to get. Just makes sense. The shorter the lead, or the faster your boat's going, the more action you're going to get on your fly. So in a nutshell, that's just it. It's just making big loops, making your fly dance a little. Any other questions on those, Chris?
Craig, do you have anything?
I just think it's super interesting to see, what combinations and how big that tape can make a big difference on light conditions. And I think, as fishermen, those minor details, everybody can buy this stuff and everybody can have this stuff. It's when and where. And I think that's what I love about this is, somebody with that experience is telling us, hey, if you're out there at 3:30 in the morning, that light is low, we got to go with crackle tape. I mean, to me, white is white is white. But now I'm looking at this and going, holy cow, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
the devil's in the details.
There's a million colors out there, guys. You guys know this as well as I do. There's a million colors out there, and every one of them is probably going to catch a fish for you. But you guys know this, the devil's in the small details. And it's those little things that might put that extra 2 or 3 fish in the boat for you at the end of the day. And that's one of the things you try to pay attention to. Luckily, I just stumble into some things sometimes that tend to work. And I tend to remember those things. So, so small things like that. Like you were saying, though. Exactly.
Let's get into some flies. What do you like for flies, Chris?
Yeah, let's do it. So, like I said, these are all mix and match, Chris. I hear so many people talk about trying to match color to color, flashers to flies. And honestly, in my experience, you get a combination that works, just stick with it. It could be completely different colors, but some combinations just work better than others. So I think the mother of all flies, or the 2 mother of all flies, are right there. Pickled Sunshine, Dreamweaver product, tube fly, which means it's tied on a tube. KRW Riverside fly. These 2 are essentially the exact same fly. And these 2 have probably put more fish in the boat than any other fly out there on Lake Michigan. That's all I can talk about is Lake Michigan. I don't have much experience on other lakes, Great Lakes, that is. Big difference is Riverside, bullet head. Like I said, the Dreamweaver has got a tied tube on there. So another question I get on these Dreamweaver flies is, how do I run this thing? Do I run it with the thread showing, or do I run it the proper way with the thread underneath? And I myself, and about everybody else I know, run it with the thread out. I think you're going to get more hits that way. So those are my 2 number 1 flies right there. KRW Riverside, Dreamweaver Pickled Sunshine. If you don't have any other flies on the boat and you only have those 2, you're going to be fine. You're going to catch fish. Here's a fly that KRW just came out with just last year. You can check out KRW flies at krwflies.com. All the Dreamweaver products, dreamweaverlures.com. Check them all out there. Actually, this fly came out 2 years ago. That is the KRW Blue-Green Dolphin. And when that thing first came out and they got it in my hands, the first trip out, that thing outperformed all my other flies almost 2-1 on that one day. So absolutely fell in love with that thing instantly. And it hasn't left some of my gear since that time. Next one on my list, I just got into last year. It's a newer fly from KRW. That is the Money Shot. Fell in love with that thing as well. I had some of these Money Shots on the boat last year. Probably had 6 or 7 pieces of tinsel left on them. They got hit so many times. and they were still getting hit. They're just getting destroyed. And every time I broke one of those off or lost one somehow, I about cried because there's something about those mangled flies that just seem to absolutely take fish. But that money shot right there, I can tell you from my experience, other boats' experience, tournament boats have switched to a lot of these money shots, and the blue-green dolphin, absolute destroyer on kings right there. Coho love them too. Lake trout love them too. And the last one I'm going to show you, KRW Aqua Gold Glow. This might be the first fly I ever had way back in the day, and have never turned my back on this thing. This thing has absolutely put fish in the boat for me so many times over the years. And one thing you can see about the KRW flies, they are all bullet head flies. So there's never any doubt which way you want to run these things. So we want to talk about leader length. Just we'll touch on that real quick because that's a common question that I get as well. Leader length for me on flies, I keep it really simple. I used to stress over this way too daggone much, Chris. I used to sit there with a ruler down in my basement. I had a ruler on my boat, and I'd get my flies exactly like 23 3/8, whatever. What I went to over the past years was when I would grab an 8-inch spin doctor, I would grab my fly, put the fly in my hand, or put the hook rather in my hand, and I stretched the leader out to right here at the top of my shoulder. And I measured that one. I'm 6 feet tall. I measured that one day, and it came out to almost about 24 inches. So that is the leader length for me for my 8-inch spin doctors and flies. If I'm doing 10-inch spin doctors or 10-inch flashers with a fly, it's hook in my hand, leader length out to the middle of my sternum. If I'm running flies, I'm always running flies off these big paddles. But big paddles for me, I found that longer is better on these things. So it's sternum to the floor for me. So when that hook touches the floor and I touch it here to my sternum, that's my length on the big flashes. But don't be afraid, especially on these big flashers. Don't be afraid to stretch your leaders out. If you're going to ask, because I always ask this, how do I know when I do that? You know, people are always saying, hey, don't be afraid to do this. You know, the fish might like that. Well, how the heck do you know when to do that? That was always the question that I had. And really it boiled down to is if I got this thing in the water and it's been 2 hours that it hasn't taken a bite, something's wrong. And if I know that I got my speed right, I got my depth right, everything's right on my fish hawk, depth temp's looking good, I'm not in a cross current, something else is going wrong down there. So there's lots of days, those big kings, they want a much longer lead. So I've stretched these big paddle lengths out to over 6 feet before, and they've taken fish. I'll do that also with my 8-inch, my 10-inch spin doctors, my flip fins. There's days I got those things out 35, 36 inches. Some days that lazy attitude in that fly, that's just what those fish want on that certain day. Maybe they got full bellies. You know, they've been eating on alewives all weekend long, and they just want something that's a little easier for them to grab. They're like us. You know, if there's a piece of pizza sitting there within reach, you know, we're not going to put too much effort into it, but we might grab it there and take a bite out of it. So don't be afraid to strength or lengthen out your leaders if you're not getting bit on your flashers.
So what you're really saying is the bigger the paddle, the longer the lead.
Yeah, exactly right.
Talk to me a little bit about speeds. You brought that up a little bit. What's the speed you're typically running when you're running these flasher flies?
Yeah, I'm pretty much a slow goer, Chris. You've been on my boat. I think you probably saw that. I'm a 2.0 to 2.2 kind of guy. In the morning, I might even be down 1.9 to 2.0. I just like that slower speed. You don't cover as much water. You're not crossing over as many fish, but I think you're going to make up the dividends on the bites that you get. You're going to get the bigger fish as well on those slower speeds.
Awesome. Craig, any questions?
You know, just one last question. What pound test are you running on those leaders? We just talked about length, but if a guy's going to go tie his own and put his beads on and run some hooks, just tell us a little bit more about the pound test we're running.
Craig, that's a great question. That's one that goes back and forth in debate all the time. You know, do I want to run mono? Do I want to run fluoro? These all come with the KRWs. I know, I'm pretty sure the Dreamweaver do as well. I think they're all 50-pound big game right out of the package, and that's going to do you just fine. Just 50 pounds straight up mono big game. I've experimented around on going down to lighter leaders, like down to 35-pound. The lighter I go, typically I get down to the fluorocarbon. I like the whip a little more in those lighter lines with the fluorocarbon. It doesn't mean to say you can't still run just regular old mono if you don't want to spend the extra money on the fluoro.
Very good, Chris.
Absolutely, right down the alley.
Yeah, great stuff, Chris. Anything that you wanted to say that we didn't ask you about, you wanted to bring up before we let you go?
No, just hey, thanks for having me on, Chris. You're welcome back to come on the boat here again this year if you want to.
I would love to do that. We had a great time with you in August this year. Had an awesome crew of guys that went out with us, and it was a really, really fun time. So I appreciate that. And
yeah, one of my favorite days all year long for sure. That same group is coming back in August. I'll get with you. I'll get you an invite back out. You're definitely welcome back.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It was just fun hanging out with the guys, and went and had lunch. You had to run. You didn't get to have lunch with us, but it was just a really fun lunch too with you or with Tim and the guys, and it was a good time. So awesome, Chris. Well, we appreciate you. And again, if people want to reach out to you, find out more about you, they can do it on your YouTube channel. It's Tangled Tackle. TangledTackleCompany.com is the website. Want to go fishing with Chris out of Manistee, you can go darkbluecharters.com. And if it's anything like the day I was with you, make sure that you eat your Wheaties before you go see Chris.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Love it.
Awesome.
Take care, Chris.
Captain
Thanks,
Chris
guys.
Engels. All right, take care, Chris. All right, Craig, that is about it. It's, something about doing a show the evening of Valentine's Day. Didn't have a humongous audience, but we'll be sharing this. We'll be breaking this up into a bunch of reels and putting it out on our podcast platform. We do have a question that someone asked that we never got to. We'll get to it now, and I think you're actually a good person to answer this question. Martin John says, what bow mount trolling motor would you recommend? I run the PA 14, spend most of my time trolling for salmon and trout on Lake Superior. Martin, make sure you join us tomorrow night. We're going to have Corey Goldsworthy from the Minnesota DNR joining us. We'll talk some Lake Superior fishing with him. But what bow mount trolling mount do you recommend?
It's really based on your make and model of your boat. I mean, right now, it's a lot of people are worried about this new brushless technology, which I think is huge, saving battery life. Yes, do we have Dakota lithium batteries, and do we have tons of amp hours? Of course we do, but looking for that brushless has seemed to save a lot of guys a lot of time and money. But also the length of that shaft. They're built right now somewhere out to 72 inches. So if you have a really tall boat, some of those big aluminum that have those deep keels and those deep V's, you may need that extra length, especially if you're in rough water. Some of the forward-facing technology, if you're going to be running forward-facing, doesn't fit on all trolling motors. So that's another thing. I've seen some really good returns on guys with that new Garmin. I personally run a Minn Kota Quest, one of the new ones, and it's been a really good trolling motor. It's one of the scissor action, kind of like the Bass guys run, and I like that because my forward facing stays mounted onto the shaft, and I don't have to worry about it coming up through the housing like on a Tarova or an Altera. So that Ultrex Quest has been my go-to for the last few Ranger boats that I've had, but even in my little Lund Alaskan, I've got a 18-foot Lund Alaska we run in the Finger Lakes, and it's got a 72-inch Tarova that we do not run as much forward-facing on because we're usually fishing out of the back of the boat. So it can be situational, I think, but they're all really good. I'm kind of down to the controller. I like the interface of the controller. I'm spending a lot of time trolling with it. It's a directional. For me, I've got my kicker locked in at forward, and I can dial in my RPMs with my box. But, with that Minn Kota, I can do my steering at like a 4 and 5 power, and it seems to manage, that heavy Ranger all day long. So can be very situational. There's a lot of great, equipment out on the market. Even Power Pole came out with a new one too. And, so I think it just depends on what you're fishing for. If you're doing a lot more trolling or if you're going to do a lot more casting, I think that would make a big difference.
All right. Well, that's it for us tonight. If you want to get a hold of Craig,
Aquatraction.com. Yeah.
Aquatraction.com. Have him help you out with that. But good luck this season out on the tour.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. Really fun to have you. Love talking to you.
It's been
you're just one of the good guys in the sport.
Great partnership. We always use our fish hawk trolling. I can't say enough about the product and the customer service you guys have been over the year. I know I ran into a little issue in the championship and had a little overnight action, so we had to get a unit in to get us out there. But always love talking to Chris, and say hi to Trev back at the shop, and I know he's been working on always putting the new technology out there, and he's kind of the brains of the operation. You're the social guy, but love to get you back out and get you some of those big perch. Maybe bring the crew out there for a little bit of time.
Fun.
So I'd love to see you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching tonight, Martin, John. We're gonna make you the guest or the viewer of the night. So if you want to go ahead and drop us a line on Facebook. Just say you won, and we'll get you that swag package. Hopefully, you're still watching. I know he asked that question a while back, but that's it for us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. We got Captain Vince Pierleone is the guest co-host tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, we'll have no co-host. It's just going to be me talking.
One-man pony.
A lot of good stuff coming on Sunday. We'll have Captain Pete Alex on with us as well. So a lot more good stuff coming to you from right here at the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo. See you tomorrow.